Our story kicks off with the Astri family. This noble house is so ridiculously intimidating. People say their sheer aura could knock a bird right out of the sky. They hold so much power and influence that they can even boss around the emperor of the entire kingdom. As the absolute top-tier magic family in the land, they wouldn't hesitate to throw their own flesh and blood to the streets if they lacked talent. But lately, a pretty dark rumor has been floating around. Inside one of the rooms, a few maids are gossiping with a guy in a sharp suit. One maid whispers asking if they have heard the latest tea. She spills that the eldest young master failed his magic awakening yet again. The other maids gasp in pure shock. They cannot believe it since this is already his third mana shock. One of them starts wondering if the second young master will take over as the head of the house instead. But another quickly shushes her, terrified that someone might be listening. One maid points out that it makes perfect sense for the young master to go a little crazy after failing 3 times. The others nod, agreeing that he was always a bit of an oddball anyway. The guy in the suit chimes in asking what the young master has been up to lately. The maids look at him like he is crazy for not knowing. One of them leans in and explains that it all started a month ago, when the young master suddenly woke up from a super long coma. She says that the second his eyes snapped open, he just sat there mumbling a bunch of total nonsense for hours. Right after that, he sprinted barefoot out of the giant mansion, running straight into a freezing rainstorm. It was like he spotted some hidden treasure in the yard. He slammed his knees into the mud and started frantically digging. Using nothing but his bare hands, he dug and dug until his fingers were literally bleeding and raw. And what did he finally pull out of the dirt? According to the maids, he held it up with a totally unhinged smile, and it was just a completely normal, worthless weed. Hearing this, the man in the suit and an older gray-haired woman just stare in utter disbelief. They cannot wrap their heads around why on earth he would be digging up weeds. The suit guy tries to brush it off, guessing it was probably just some super rare magic herb. But the maids quickly shoot that down, yelling that the weed is not even the crazy part. They reveal that ever since that insane rainy day, every single day for the past month, he has been acting exactly the same. He spends every waking moment outside, just ripping weeds out of the ground. Cut to our main guy, where a glowing system screen tells him he just grabbed some blue basil. Tons of notification windows keep flashing in front of his face, and the young master cheers, totally hyped about another super productive day. He stares at his rough, calloused hands and realizes his entire life is about to change, starting right now. But then he feels eyes on him again. He sighs, thinking to himself that being the oldest grandson of the legendary Astri magic family is honestly just exhausting. He introduces himself as Lion Astri, but plot twist, he is actually a regular Korean guy named Baek Hun on the inside. In his past life, he was a team leader at an average corporate job, but he rage quit one day because his boss was an absolute nightmare. Suddenly, blessed with way too much free time, he booted up an old video game he used to be obsessed with, but he got hit with a nasty surprise. He realized, super annoyed, that every single one of his high-level characters had been wiped out. The game was forcing him to build a totally brand new character from scratch. Annoyed but bored, he swiped his card and bought a premium character creation pack. Talk about lucky. He hit the total jackpot and rolled some wildly overpowered skills. He promised himself he was not going to stress over surviving anymore, not even in a video game. So, he decided to make a total pacifist build, putting all his stats into healing and support. He remembers that setting up his chill, cozy new playstyle was his very last memory before his life as Baek Hun ended. When he finally woke up, he found himself trapped inside the game Reborn as Lion Astri. And the craziest part, it is 50 years after the main game's storyline ended. He breathes a sigh of relief, super thankful that he kept all the memories of this body's original owner. Right on cue, he yanks out another plant called water rosemary. A bright system window pops up telling him he just unlocked the novice herbalist achievement. Plus, he scored 1,000 shillings just from that one pull. He also notices that an exclusive shop will unlock once he hits a certain amount of cash. Lion wonders if the shop opens up when he saves 100,000 shillings. He gets super pumped, realizing he might be able to escape this toxic family way sooner than he thought. Seeing all those achievements pop up makes him feel great, proving his new skills are working like an absolute charm. But then reality hits him, and he starts sweating over a pretty scary detail. He wonders if this body really suffered through 3 massive magic failures. He knows the Astri house only cares about power and results, so our main guy desperately needs to grind for cash before they throw him out on the streets for having 0 magic. As he walks, he gets totally lost in thought, brainstorming how to save up enough money to finally escape this place in one piece. Out of nowhere, something shiny in the bushes catches his eye and he stops dead in his tracks to check it out. He even starts debating if he should just straight up bribe the head of the family to make his exit a little smoother. But out of nowhere, he spots a weird blue light glowing from a bush. He just stands there, totally blown away by the sight playing out right in front of him. Completely hyped, the young man knows right away that he just hit the jackpot. He dashes over as fast as his legs can carry him. Not wasting a single second, he digs his bare hands straight into the dirt and violently yanks out that special glowing plant. A system alert pops up. He just scored a super rare 3-star red sun fern. This thing is perfect for crafting top-tier potions. Lion pumps his fist in the air, totally thrilled about unlocking another massive achievement. Suddenly, "Young master," a deep voice cuts through the silence. Still riding the high of his 3-star drop, he completely ignores the person standing right behind him. When he finally turns around, he jumps, coming face to face with an incredibly intense aura. It is an older lady glaring holes into him right in the middle of the woods. He realizes it is Madame Sylvia as she coldly points out that he is awfully obsessed with pulling up random weeds lately. "I have my own reasons," he shoots back. Then he quickly asks, "Wait, can you see what I am holding?" She glances down, saying it just looks like a high-quality herb. But Lion points wildly at the leaves. "No, look, it is glowing. You really do not see the light." He is completely baffled. But Sylvia just stares at him in dead silence. In her head, she is already thinking, so the crazy rumors are actually true. She gently places a hand on the boy's head, confirming that no, she does not see a single trace of light on the plant. Lion's eyes widen in shock. Right then, it clicks. He is the only person in this entire world who can actually see the hidden glowing aura wrapped around magical plants. But Sylvia cuts his excitement short. They have to head back right this second. Why? Because the patriarch has been hunting for him. The young master instantly freezes up, terrified at the thought that his scary grandfather is actively looking for him at this exact moment. A cold sweat drops down his face. His grandpa is a brutal man who strictly lives by the law of the Frand jungle. He happily throws away any family member who lacks talent to survive this place and make a clean getaway. The patriarch is the final boss he needs to suck up to, and fast. He has to get on the old man's good side immediately. He totally did not expect Patriarch Astri to track him down this early. Pure panic sets in. He has 0 bribes prepared to calm the old guy down. But wait. A huge light bulb goes off in Lion's head. He looks down at the rare sun fern he just pulled from the dirt. The young master turns to the lady. "Tell my grandfather I will meet him a bit later," he says. "But first, he needs a huge favor." Flashing a super sneaky grin, the boy steps right up to Sylvia and whispers exactly what he needs her to pull off. Meanwhile, deep inside the mansion's private office, the patriarch is getting a status report from his main assistant. He grunts, asking if that boy is still acting crazy. The assistant nods, confirming the young master has literally done nothing but pick weeds since the moment he opened his eyes. He quickly adds that the kid still cannot feel a single drop of mana, but somehow his body is totally healthy and his memory is perfectly fine. The patriarch's face twists in pure disgust. He is totally sickened by his oldest grandson being utterly useless. With a freezing cold tone, he kicks the assistant out of the room to handle this mess, completely alone. The second the door clicks shut, the old man calls out for Sylvia. Like magic, she steps right out of the shadows, surrounded by a thick dark mist. He glares at her. What exactly is that brat scheming? He refuses to believe it is just crazy rumors. But Sylvia keeps a straight face. He is literally just picking weeds, sir. It is all the mansion staff talks about, and they are sick of it. She adds that the kid has even dragged his little hobby deep into the woods. The old man snaps. "That is not what I asked," he barks. Unfazed, Sylvia drops the bomb. "The boy said he will stop by a bit later." The patriarch's eyes go wide. The pure disrespect. Outraged, he violently slams his heavy fist onto the wooden desk. He cannot believe a completely useless kid has the guts to make him wait. Roaring in anger, the old man swears that if the brat is not here right now, he is going to burn that entire forest to the ground. Sylvia bows her head. Fading back into the pitch-black shadows, she promises to pass on every single word of that deadly threat. Left alone to grumble about kids these days, the patriarch rests his heavy hand on a glowing crystal orb. He should have come running to beg on his knees, he mutters. He just cannot wrap his head around why the kid is playing in the dirt. Meanwhile, in another room, Lion's jaw is practically hitting the floor. He is staring at a mountain of ultra-rare gear that just got delivered. His eyes sparkle, looking at a huge table packed with high-end glass flasks and magical tools, just for crafting potions. He is totally stunned. This setup costs an absolute fortune. Being a rich heir really is a cheat code, he thinks. But playtime is over. He shakes off the shock and gets serious. It is time to put his pro-gamer instincts to the ultimate test. Glancing at his floating skill screen, he figures something out. Potion crafting has to have a grinding quest to farm experience points. The system chimes in. Crafting ranks start from apprentice and climb all the way to master, a legendary rank that only 1% of top players ever hit. Lion knows the rules. A higher rank means crazy fast crafting speeds and way better stats on the final drops. With a fiery look in his eyes, he goes all in. He is going to brew 100 potions at the exact same time and chug every single one of them right after. He stretches his hand out over a massive bubbling cauldron. The magic sparks fly as the wild crafting process officially begins. Smirking with total confidence, the young master fires up his unique extraction skill. Instantly, a bright magical light floods the entire room. The glowing liquid pours perfectly into a glass vial. His very first minor health potion is a massive success. Gripping the small red bottle, he cheers. This little drink can patch up the injuries of anyone who gulps it down. Not wasting a single second, he chugs the whole thing. Pumping his fist, he realizes that having top-tier gear really changes the game. The system chimes in confirming his health is completely full. Even better, his rank as a beginner alchemist is finally leveling up. Flashing a huge grin, he slams the empty glass onto the table. Chuckling to himself, he knows his scary grandpa is in for a massive surprise. A devious laugh echoes through the dark room. In his mind, he tells the old man to just wait and see what he has planned. Row after row of red potions start piling up on the desk. Meanwhile, system alerts flash, showing he is inches away from his goal. Morning sunlight pours into the lab the next day, shining on a literal mountain of empty bottles. A tired groan escapes the young master. He slumps deep into his chair, completely drained, holding one last potion. He complains dramatically that he cannot stomach another drop. His health bar has been maxed out for hours. Chugging these healing drinks has turned into absolute torture. Still, he knows he has to force down this final gulp. Pushing through the disgust, he swallows the very last drop. His stomach does flips from the insane amount of liquid he just downed. Suddenly, a sweet notification pops up. The beginner alchemist achievement is unlocked, and a brand new secret recipe is finally available. Thrilled that his crazy grind actually paid off, he spins back to the alchemy station to check out the new details. His heart races with pure hype. Clenching his fists, he pumps himself up to tackle this next big step. Wasting zero time, he tosses the glowing fresh ingredients straight into the pot to start his most important masterpiece. As he works, he remembers spending hours picking herbs out in the field, racking his brain for the absolute best gift for his grandpa. The old man is already stacked with mana and has top-tier healers on standby, so handing him basic health or mana items would be totally pointless. That is when it hit him. He needed to brew something special to cure the old man's mental burnout. Lion knows perfectly well that his grandfather is always buried under tons of duties, and works himself to the bone every single day without a break. Sure, powerful mages can just use magic to recharge their physical bodies, meaning they never really get physically tired. But the deep mental exhaustion from constant stress and endless paperwork, that is a totally different beast that normal magic cannot fix. Suddenly, the liquid in the pot glows a bright neon blue and releases a super crisp, refreshing smell. Lion beams with hope. He remembers back in his gaming days. This exact type of item was completely trash and sold for basically pennies. But now that he is living inside this world for real, making this potion feels incredibly special and way more valuable. Eyes locked on the prize, Lion reaches out toward the gear and fires up his extraction spell one more time. The bright blue liquid floats beautifully into the air, wrapping the boy in a stunning glowing aura. Deep inside that magical blue water, visions of his happiest memories back on Earth with his buddies begin to flash. A chime rings out as the system tells him that he perfectly crafted the mental recovery potion. It works its magic by replaying the drinker's warmest memories. Lion completely loses it, cheering loudly when he sees the item actually hit 2 stars. Knowing this masterpiece is the ultimate bribe to keep his strict grandpa happy. Just breathing in the sweet smell of it, the young master's brain fog instantly vanishes, and he has not even taken a single sip yet. Right then, a giant alert flashes across his screen. It warns him that he just cooked up something that should be flat out impossible for a low-level player. Out of nowhere, the system announces his special talent is now active, and his potential to build a mana circle is officially unlocked. His jaw drops to the floor. He reads that he can now control his own magic with insane precision, way better than anyone else. Dozens of bright blue sparks start flashing from his body, dancing right around the glass in his hand. A massive shining aura completely swallows the young master, making the air in the room feel heavy and powerful. Staring down at the raw energy swirling around his fingers, a huge grin spreads across his face. This is it. The famous mana. He bursts into loud, uncontrollable laughter, throwing a one-man party right there in the lab to celebrate this crazy win. But outside in the hallway, someone is listening. A man hears him cheering about finally getting his hands on magic. As Lion keeps laughing his head off, the mysterious guy slowly cracks the door open, watching the whole scene play out in dead silence. Staring through the tiny gap, the spy gets a very serious, calculating look on his face before quietly turning and walking away. The watcher shuts the door without a peep, slipping down the giant hallway to get back to their chores. Lounging in his chair, Lion is totally hyped. He finally has both magic and cash in his pockets. At this rate, he figures his big getaway plan is going to be an absolute breeze. He shuts his eyes with a big grin, soaking up a sweet moment of peace after busting his tail all day. But suddenly, he shoots up from his seat. Panic washes over his face as it hits him. He forgot something huge. He just stands there totally frozen before letting out a loud groan. He finally remembers exactly what he messed up. Cut to the main office of the Astri mansion. The morning sun is shining bright outside, but inside, the air is thick with tension. The scary family boss, Patrick Astri, is boiling mad. He yells that Lion is super late for their meeting. Sylvia, standing right by his side, chimes in. She says she just cannot get why the kid is pushing himself so hard just to brew one tiny potion. Patrick thinks back to his glory days. Back then, he was a key player in the hero team that roasted scary dragons with fire. He takes total pride in leading the Astri family. The guy is so strong he could build a whole country from scratch if he really wanted to. He mutters that he could give his grandson a totally easy life without breaking a sweat. He has no clue what the weak kid is trying to prove. Sylvia nods, agreeing they have plenty of cash and power. She softly adds that it makes sense for a grandpa to worry about his grandson. Hearing that, Patrick whips around, totally caught off guard, and tries to play it cool. But she does not stop talking. She explains that the young master looked genuinely happy and full of life, while pouring his heart into making that weird potion. The old man lets out a heavy sigh, rubbing his temples in frustration. He shoots back that happiness means nothing if the kid is basically at death's door. A sad look crosses her face. She brings up that this was the boy's third mana shock, and living through just one is already a total miracle. Sylvia admits they cannot sit around hoping for magic cures anymore. She just wants the kid to live out his days peaceful, healthy. Suddenly, a sharp knock cuts them off, and a voice from the hall asks to come inside. The door swings open, and a helper steps in to announce Lion. The kid walks in looking fresh, flashing a super friendly smile. He steps right up to Patrick's big desk, gives a deep, polite bow, and gives a super sweet apology for showing up so late. His grandpa just glares at him with dead serious eyes, demanding to know what took him so long. After all, the kid got better a long time ago. Lion plays it cool. He says he just needed some quiet time to think about his life after surviving that awful mana shock. He points out the truth: everyone knows he has zero talent for magic. Hearing this, Sylvia's face falls with pity. Lion gives her a warm smile, saying it is totally okay. He claims he has finally made peace with his weak body. Staring down at his own hands, he admits that at first he was in total denial about not being able to use magic. He opens up, saying that when the truth really hit him, he felt like he did not belong in this powerful family anymore. But then his face lights up. He says things are different now, holding out his blue potion as proof of his fresh start. He explains he hit the books hard so he would not embarrass the family name. Plus, he made this specific bottle for a very special reason. With a super caring look, he says he brewed this just for his grandpa, worried that the old man was getting too tired lately. Patrick just stares down at the little bottle in dead silence. His eyes are sharp, trying to figure out what the kid is really up to. But then Patrick spots something fresh about the boy. It is not just how he is standing tall. It feels like the kid has grown up deep down inside. The old man goes quiet, realizing the boy spent all those days sweating out in the forest just to make a gift for him. Beneath that scary face, the grumpy old man is completely melting. He is super touched by his grandson's sweet hard work. But of course, he clears his throat and forces his tough guy face back on. He reminds himself that he is basically a living legend, the strongest guy in the kingdom for years. He knows his body can shrug off deadly poisons, so this little drink probably will not do a thing to him. Still, Lion keeps pushing, saying he made it with so much love, trying hard to hide his blushing face. The big scary boss is doing happy backflips in his mind, hearing his kid beg him to drink his gift. He snaps back to reality. With a cold, bossy voice, he asks if the boy is finally done chatting. Lion gives a polite nod. Patrick grunts, saying he gets the message, and waves his hand to let the kid leave. Flashing a sneaky, satisfied grin, Lion bows and says goodbye. He gently pulls the heavy office door shut. Once the room clears out, the patriarch and his head housekeeper Sylvia are left alone in the massive space. Sylvia playfully teases the old man, pointing out how insanely happy he looks. But he immediately tries to brush it off, stammering out a quick denial and claiming she is talking total nonsense. Locking his eyes on the mysterious blue flask, the patriarch admits there is something truly fascinating about this specific potion. Gripping the glowing glass in his gloved hand, he softly mutters that the energy coming off the blue liquid feels weirdly familiar. Sylvia points out that it does not even smell like mana. She offers to run a quick analysis on it, but the old man waves her off, saying it is perfectly fine. He tells her he just wants to sit back and appreciate the genuine warmth and love coming from his eldest grandson. Sylvia totally gets it. She gives a deep, respectful bow and quietly slips out of the office, leaving Patrick all by himself with his new gift. Now alone in the quiet room, the patriarch thinks back. It has been way too long since his oldest grandson gave him something this thoughtful. He admires the incredible craftsmanship of the flask. In his mind, he knows a flawless piece of alchemy like this could never be whipped up overnight. Honestly, he doubts it will do anything at all for a guy with a body as powerful as his. But he decides to drink it anyway, refusing to waste such a sweet gesture from his grandson. So without skipping a beat, The patriarch tilts his head back and chugs the glowing blue liquid straight out of the tiny bottle. The second the potion hits his stomach, a magical warm breeze carrying green leaves swirls gently around his chair. He slumps back into the cushions, letting out a heavy breath as his totally burned out mind finds a deep soothing peace for the first time in literal years. Flashes of joy, old memories from his youth and his days of glory start to float softly through his head. Just seconds after closing his heavy eyes, he drifts off into a deep, peaceful sleep. It is just a quick power nap, barely long enough to count as real rest. But the dream he has during those few minutes is insanely sweet and calming, unlike anything he has ever felt before. A little while later, the patriarch slowly flutters his eyes open. His whole body feels incredibly light and refreshed. He wakes up totally shocked that he actually managed to sleep. Even better, that beautiful trip down memory lane did not leave him feeling groggy or depressed at all. Staring down at the empty glass, the patriarch is amazed to find his thoughts crystal clear. And the best part, that awful chronic headache is completely gone. He looks out the bright sunny window, realizing his daily mental exhaustion has been totally wiped away. All thanks to a simple little potion from his grandson. Patrick lets out a soft, happy sigh and mutters with a tiny smile that the kid really just does whatever he wants in life. He decides right then and there to stop holding the boy back just because of his fragile health. He vows to figure out a way to block any more mana shocks from hurting him. The old man warmly pictures living a long, happy life right beside Lion. Meanwhile, completely out of nowhere, the young man's eyes suddenly well up with tears. Right outside the mansion, a maid gasps in shock. She just heard a nasty rumor that Lion Astari is supposedly going to die very soon. Another maid chimes in, claiming he even handed over a final goodbye gift to the patriarch. They start piecing things together, guessing that is why he was out pulling weeds earlier. Hearing this, a male servant bursts into mean laughter, openly mocking the boy. He jokes that the young man was probably just picking out his own grave. But suddenly, a loud, sharp snap makes the laughing servant jump, cutting his cruel joke right in half. Panic sets in the second the group sees exactly who caught them. The servants stumble over weak excuses about their chores and sprint back to work. Standing nearby, a highly annoyed maid named Hannah drops the news that yet another worker assigned to young Master Lion just decided to pack up and quit. Her co-worker looks stunned. Hannah rolls her eyes, complaining that these same people used to brag about how easy it was to serve the young man since he was so chill. She rips into the staff for their total lack of loyalty, bailing without a single word over some stupid, baseless gossip. She flat out calls them ungrateful, reminding everyone that the young man was always super kind to them. Suddenly, her coworker stutters in pure terror, begging her to look behind her. Hannah spins around, her heart dropping as she hears the icy voice of the head housekeeper, Sylvia. She politely asks if she could hear a little more about this topic. Wearing a scary calm smile, Sylvia orders Hannah to spill every single detail about the nasty rumors spreading through the mansion. Fast forward a bit, in another wing of the massive estate, someone politely says sorry for showing up late to their meeting. Patrick waves it off, asking if there was some kind of emergency, and Sylvia just smoothly brushes it off, saying it was nothing too serious. Meanwhile, outside, those three gossiping servants are seen dragging their pack bags away from the mansion. Sylvia clearly handled the situation without hesitation. Back inside, Patrick goes totally quiet. He stares off, lost in deep thought after hearing Sylvia's full report on what just went down. She decides to take a closer look at the kid's potion, activating a mysterious skill known as the Witch's Eye. Instantly, glowing pink smoke and ancient rune circles swirl around the glass flask on the wooden table. Sylvia gasps in total awe. She points out that this is no ordinary brew and there's just no way the young master could have whipped this up himself. Her eyes go wide with pure shock. Dead serious, she whispers, asking if this could actually belong to the legendary hero. The lore speaks of a legendary hero who just completely vanished into thin air, right after ending the Demon War 50 years ago. This guy was an absolute powerhouse, so insanely strong that literally no dungeon or prison on Earth could ever hold him down. His magic was so off the charts that even the gods would sweat at the thought of fighting him head-on. Clasping her hands together, she wonders if he's the only one who can track down the secret contract hidden inside the mansion's maze and finally free a certain someone. But Patrick cuts in, telling her to hold her horses. He explains that if this were the real deal, the kick it gave his body would have been way stronger. Narrowing his eyes like a true detective, he brings up a huge clue about what he noticed when they met earlier. Patrick says with zero doubt that there is absolutely no way the young lion is that same legendary hero from 50 years ago. Still, he admits he wants to hit up his grandson for an even stronger potion, hoping it'll give his sister the exact same sense of peace and freedom he just felt. He sighs, mentioning she's been stuck in a deep slump for centuries now, and if this stuff worked on an 8th circle mage like him, it'll definitely do the trick for her. Hearing her boss talk so sweetly, Sylvia cracks a tiny smile and lets out a soft little chuckle. Flustered, Patrick tries to play it cool with a loud, totally fake laugh, desperately trying to change the subject away from his sleepy sister. Putting an end to it, she gives off this mysterious vibe and says that worrying about a 1,000-year-old witch with godlike power is the biggest waste of time ever. She tells him to stop stressing out his cute grandson over her, but the old man stubbornly tries to argue back. Sylvia just bows, touched by his care, while the patriarch quietly accepts that his trusty right-hand woman is totally at peace with how things are. He lets out a heavy sigh, his mind drifting back to his beloved sleeping sister, just crossing his fingers that this whole plan with his grandson actually pays off. Cut to another hallway where Lion literally bumps right into his grandpa, only to have the old man point out that he looks stressed out of his mind. The kid tries to play it cool, brushing it off like it's nothing, but old man Patrick instantly calls his bluff. To deflect, the young guy starts firing off a bunch of old-age jokes at his grandpa, leaving the poor elder totally annoyed by the brat's teasing. Smirking, Lion asks if grandpa's pacing around because of the potion he just dropped off, and the old guy actually flinches. Realizing the kid read him like an open book, he skips the small talk. The patriarch gets dead serious, looking the boy in the eye to ask if he can brew something of an even higher tier. Lion instantly freezes up, his mind racing. He knows that with his current stats, whipping up even a 2-star potion is a nightmare. He remembers he is completely out of rare herbs, and his last batch only succeeded because of dumb luck and the flashy new gear he got as a gift. Still, he knows he has to milk his grandpa's interest for all it's worth. Putting on a brave face, he proudly declares that he can pull it off, but it's going to take some time. Then, getting a little nosy, the kid politely asks what exactly this super potion is even for. Keeping a straight face, Patrick casually mentions he wants to gift it to the housekeeper. Lion's jaw practically hits the floor. His brain goes into overdrive, hilariously imagining some spicy forbidden romance brewing between his grandpa and the maid. Even though that's completely off the mark, he feels a little bad, thinking about the old man being lonely all the time. Stealing his nerves, Lion boldly asks for a 2-week deadline to cook up the ultimate high-tier potion. The old man nearly jumps out of his skin. He glares daggers at the kid, absolutely fuming at the thought of waiting that long for just one measly bottle. Freaking out as the old guy starts yelling, Lion stumbles back and frantically promises to get it done in half the time, begging his grandpa to just hold on. Hyping himself up, he realizes this is the golden ticket to get on his grandpa's good side and cash in on some sweet favors later. Without missing a beat, he bolts down the hallway to get to work, leaving Grandpa Patrick just standing there reaching out his hand in total confusion. Cut to Lion marching through the sunlit forest. The panic finally sets in because he has absolutely zero clue how to actually make the potion he just promised. He knows he doesn't have the time to grind his skill levels, and buying a ready-made one using his shillings at the system shop seemed like the smartest move. A light bulb goes off in Lion's head, and he pops open his interface to see what kind of cool gear is up for grabs. But the moment it loads, his excitement crashes. The full catalog only unlocks once he hits 100,000 shillings, meaning he has totally broken the system's eyes. He glares at the screen, totally furious at the crazy price tags on basic gear. He throws his hands up, jokingly wondering if a rusty old key is secretly forged from pure gold. He grumbles about the system being a total scam artist for pricing absolute junk so high. Shaking his head, he clicks over to peek at the other sections. His jaw drops. They actually want 10,000 shillings just for a tiny bottle of magic seasoning. A heavy sigh escapes his lips. He can't afford a single crumb from this place. With the system shop totally crossed off his list, he realizes there is only one hard choice left. He has to do things the old-school manual way. Digging up rare plants with his bare hands is just asking for blisters. His eyes narrow with determination. He desperately needs some real heavy-duty tools. Clang, clang. The heavy ringing sound of a hammer smashing against steel echoes down the street, leading him straight to the perfect spot. Heat rolls off the forge like an open oven. Inside, a massive, bulky blacksmith is absolutely pounding a glowing piece of iron. Suddenly, his assistant screams his name. The big guy growls, super annoyed that his rhythm is being messed up right when he is in the zone. But the helper is sweating bullets, begging him to drop the hammer right now. A super rich VIP just walked up to their front door. That definitely grabs the grumpy, bearded guy's attention. He stomps over to the entrance and finds Lion casually chilling outside. His arms are folded, looking cool and completely collected. The burly blacksmith's eyes go wide in pure shock as he stares down at this fancy young noble. Lion politely asks if he runs the place. Then, flashing a bright, friendly smile, he asks if he can borrow the forge to do a little hammering himself. The big guy just blinks, totally dumbfounded. Without missing a beat, Lion pulls out a heavy jingling coin pouch and makes it clear he is not asking for a freebie. He unties the strings, letting the bright golden glow of a crazy amount of coins spill out, proving he is ready to pay a fortune for the trouble. Let us hit rewind for a quick second. Just a bit earlier, Lion was inspecting the farming hose sitting out front. he quickly realized they were pretty much garbage. These guys clearly only put their real skills into making swords and armor. Lion knew that even if he dropped the mighty Astari family name, nobody was going to custom forge him a perfect farming tool by sunset. So his only option was to pull the helper John aside and ask to rent an anvil to craft the gear with his own 2 hands. John looked at him like he was totally crazy, but Lion just kept that charming smile on his face, promising a massive payout if they let him do it. Back in the present, the boss lets out a dry, sarcastic chuckle. He squints at the blinding pile of gold stuffed inside that little bag. He rubs his temples, groaning that his head is pounding and he really is not in the mood to entertain bored rich kids. John freaks out frantically, shushing his boss. The nervous helper quickly shoves most of the coins back toward Lion, stammering that it is way too much cash. He figures this sheltered noble kid has zero concept of how money actually works. He nervously warns Lion not to get scammed by shady people on the streets. The young master just scratches his head with an awkward little laugh, admitting he handed over that mountain of cash on purpose. Suddenly, the big boss stomps forward, shutting down the chatter. He glares down at Lion, his eyes full of deep suspicion but also raw curiosity. With a mocking smirk, he asks if a spoiled rich boy with baby soft hands actually plans to hammer out a farming hoe all by himself. Now, here's a cool fact. This massive bearded dude actually belongs to the proud mythical race of dwarves. In this universe, dwarves are absolute powerhouses. Their skin is practically fireproof. They can literally shove their bare hands straight into blazing coals without catching a single burn. On top of having insane raw muscle power, nobody, and I mean nobody, can match their laser-like focus and god-tier skills at the anvil. Lion's eyes widen, shocked to find a real dwarf working in this town. But his thoughts are cut off when the burly guy crosses his thick arms and demands to know the kid's name. Lion politely introduces himself. The dwarf scoffs loudly, asking if he is that famous weirdo from the Astari house. Behind him, poor John looks like he is about to have a heart attack. Not giving a single care about noble manners, the dwarf barks at John to clear a workbench so this crazy kid can start hammering. John is practically pulling his hair out in sheer panic. The dwarf casually points to the main furnace, telling Lion he can borrow the flames, and orders him to work John to the bone. Lion smiles, giving a warm thanks, and turns around to ask the master for his name. But he blinks in confusion. The bulky dwarf has already totally vanished from the room. John sighs, explaining that his grumpy brother is named Mudu, and then officially introduces himself as John. Waving for Lion to follow, he leads the young master deep into the blazing hot workshop to give him a grand tour of the exact station where he will be hammering out his new tools. John steps back, telling Lion to take all the time he needs to get comfortable. The young noble is absolutely blown away by the workshop's impressive setup. John explains that all the finished gear and weapons made inside are later brought out to the front window displays facing the main street. Taking a look, Lion notices that the gear is solid and the blacksmiths are clearly putting their hearts into it. But something just feels off. Standing right in front of the blazing forge, the young master gets super curious. He wonders why the final quality of the tools is actually so disappointing. Suddenly, Lion stares deep into the roaring flames of the furnace. He spots something super weird moving around right inside the fire. The system chimes in, warning him that a low-level fire spirit is staring right back at him. It looks incredibly weak and totally drained of energy. The boy turns to the assistant and asks, "Hey, is the forge fire always this weak from the get-go?" Scratching the back of his head, John shyly replies that the flames aren't exactly weak right now, but admits things have been a little weird lately. He says the fire's heat has dropped a lot over the past few days. Hearing this, Mudu walks over, totally intrigued. He wants to know how the kid figured that out so casually. Lion just shrugs and says, "The fire told me." The dwarven blacksmith's jaw drops in absolute shock. Lion tries to steer the conversation back to the farming tools, but the dwarf desperately throws his arm out, yelling at him to stop right there. Mudu barks at John to clear the room immediately. He says he needs a serious private chat with the young noble right now. The two step outside the workshop alone, standing under the falling leaves. The dwarven blacksmith locks eyes with the boy, looking dead serious. He firmly asks, "Did you really see that thing in the fire?" Lion just gives a subtle little smile and calmly confirms it, cool as a cucumber. The blacksmith asks if there is any way the kid can fix this mess. Lion rubs his chin in thought, figuring he could probably lend a hand. Mudu promises that if Lion fixes the fire problem, he'll personally teach him how to forge. On top of a huge cash reward, he guarantees that every single one of Lion's orders will get top priority from this day forward. The young master is completely caught off guard by the offer. He knows this workshop is legendary in the kingdom, taking orders from powerful lords and elite warriors everywhere. He is totally hyped for this golden chance to skip the waitlist at such an elite spot. He accepts right on the spot, telling the dwarf, "Leave it to me." The blacksmith sighs, venting about how hard he worked to expand the shop, but now the fire spirit is totally burned out from sheer exhaustion. He explains that without the spirit's magic, The tools just turn out bad. And since he's a dwarf, he can't understand a single word spirits say. The young man stares at the dancing flames, a plan already forming in his head, while the dwarf crosses his fingers, hoping this fragile-looking kid can actually pull this off. Lion calmly reveals, the little fire spirit is just super thirsty. Mudu flinches, totally confused. How can fire be thirsty? The blacksmith suggests tossing some water on the flames to hydrate it. But the boy instantly shoots back with a sarcastic look, asking if the dwarf has totally lost his mind. Mudu yells back in frustration, demanding to know what they should do then. Lion tells him to chill out. He explains that they need to offer something special. Something fire can actually drink. The dwarven blacksmith desperately swears he'll hand over his greatest masterpiece or whatever else the kid wants if he can just fix the situation. Lion asks, "Are you totally serious about that?" And the dwarf nods with absolute conviction. The two seal the deal with a firm handshake. The young noble announces he'll start the rescue mission tonight. Night falls over the workshop. The vibe is quiet and calm, with the bright moon glowing in the starry sky over the territory. Inside the empty shop, the young noble smiles and jokes that he somehow ended up working overtime, without even planning to. The system chimes in warning that the spirit's energy is completely running on fumes. Lion warmly promises to whip up a drink for it right away. He really feels bad for the little guy, who is totally dehydrated from working non-stop at the biggest forge in town. Honestly, Lion finds the burnout way too relatable. Knowing exactly what the creature needs, he takes out the water rosemary he collected to mix up a special oil. He happily explains that when this salty plant is crushed down, it turns into the ultimate energy drink for fire spirits. The water rosemary oil starts bubbling and glowing with magic, showing the recipe is a total success. Lion carefully pours the liquid into the flame. The system alerts him that the spirit's thirst is finally going down. Thanks to the perfect match, the tiny fire monster dances with pure joy and begs for more. Smiling, the young man promises to whip up another batch real quick, without wasting a single second. The young noble starts squeezing more rare herbs through the cloth, extracting every last drop of that special healing oil. The fire spirit drinks it all in and flares to life. Its magical energy and deep thirst are totally satisfied right there in the forge. Because the little creature feels so thankful, Lion's spiritual connection grows much stronger. Lion gives a warm smile and tells it not to mention it. Fast forward to the next morning, Mudu bursts into the workshop with his arms wide open. He yells out excitedly that this strange kid actually pulled it off. The dwarven blacksmith just stares at him, his eyes huge with pure awe. To Mudu, this blonde kid is someone truly amazing. But then he spots Lion, looking completely drained, and asks if he is doing all right. Lion just brushes it off, saying he feels perfectly fine. But a second later, the young noble starts swaying on his feet, mumbling that it is just the usual exhaustion from staying up all night working. And right on cue, Lion completely blacks out. He smacks face first into the cold floor. Seeing this, the tough blacksmith starts freaking out completely. Mudu drops down, screaming loudly. He begs the boy not to die on him out of nowhere in such a tragic way. A few hours roll by. Soft smoke drifts up the workshop, chimney fading into the bright, sunny sky over the estate. Inside, two kids with big, bright green eyes lean over the dining table. They adorably ask the nice stranger what his name is. Lion opens his mouth to speak, but the two little troublemakers cut him off, giggling, as they playfully blurt out their own nicknames. He just watches them goofing around with a soft smile. Seeing how close this brother and sister are really warms his heart. It makes him think back to his own little brother. But then his smile fades a bit, remembering how grumpy the kid always was, probably hating him a lot. Taking a slow sip of his soup, Lion figures things will be just fine as long as they stay out of each other's way. After all, he does not care about leading the family anyway. Suddenly, a woman's worried voice snaps him right out of his thoughts. It is the kid's mom rushing in to check on them. She gently scolds the two, telling them to go play somewhere else. But one of the cheeky kids just jokes that the guy's actual name must be Young Master, chuckling at the cute situation. Lion finally gets to introduce himself properly. The little boy repeats the name back, getting super excited. Even so, the kid decides that Young Master sounds way cooler, so he is just going to stick with calling him that. Lion gives him a really sweet reply. Seeing this, the mom starts playfully chasing her kids around the room. She fusses at them for ruining their guest's breakfast, but the little ones just sprint away, laughing loudly. Miss Leia sighs and apologizes for the chaos. But Lion just praises their fun energy, adding that her homemade soup is absolutely amazing. Blushing a bit, she admits that she was in total shock when her blacksmith husband brought a passed-out noble into their house early this morning. She then gives him a deep, heartfelt thank you for fixing Mudu's problems. Waving it off, Lion smiles and says a hot meal and a good place to rest are plenty of payback for him. Right on cue, the door swings wide open. Mudu marches in loudly, asking if their guests slept well. His kids instantly tackle him in a giant hug. The tough dwarf scoops them right up, holding them affectionately, while the little ones eagerly ask if the young master actually cured the sick spirit. Lion chuckles at the wholesome family moment. But then Mudu clears his throat and points out that since he finished eating, it is time to head to work. The master blacksmith proudly announces that his workshop is completely organized and ready to begin the noble's real training. This catches the blonde kid totally off guard. Blinking in confusion, he has no idea what the dwarf means by that, but he follows him back to the main forge anyway. Stepping inside, Lion is completely shocked by the massive stacks of premium iron bars all neatly laid out everywhere. Waving it off, Mudu casually says that is the simple part and gestures for the kid to come over to the heavy workbench. Staring wide-eyed at the shiny metal, Lion asks if all of this is really high-grade iron. Mudu nods, explaining he prepped everything early so the kid would not collapse from exhaustion again, trying to smelt it all from scratch. Impressed, Lion admits this lesson is way more serious than he expected. Mudu just smirks, asking if he thought it would be super easy. Fired up, the boy says he wants to learn everything right now. Loving that energy, the dwarf grabs his tools for a live demo. Standing against the roaring furnace heat, Mudu's face turns dead serious. He explains that the absolute core of blacksmithing is hitting the perfect metal temperature. He warns the kid that just because it glows red does not mean it is ready, and if it gets too hot, the whole thing will just melt away into nothing. The very second the iron bar hits that perfect glowing color inside the fire, the veteran dwarf yells out loudly. He alerts Lion to watch closely as he brings the hammer down with crazy precision. He explains that the trick is controlling your power to thin out the edge, while keeping the rest thick and durable. Then he shows him that once the basic shape is hammered out, you gotta smooth out those edges and get that blade razor sharp on a wet stone, the master blacksmith explains. He then shows exactly how to wedge the wooden handle onto the hoe head so it stays rock solid. Holding up the faintly glowing, newly forged tool, the dwarf smirks. See, piece of cake, right? Mudu puffs out his chest, bragging that with a pro like him around, anyone can do it. Eyes shining with excitement, Lion points at the pile of iron bars. Can I use all of these? Mudu chuckles and gives him the green light to go wild. Wasting no time, Lion scoops up the heavy metal to start his first solo craft. But Mudu's jaw drops in pure panic when the crazy kid chucks every single iron bar straight into the roaring furnace. Lion just flashes a cocky grin over his shoulder. I'm going all in on this one, he whispers, totally dialed into the forge. Fast forward a bit and the kid is dripping with sweat. He wipes his forehead, panting heavily, finally realizing that swinging a hammer is no joke. A system chime rings out, flashing a huge failed sign. His first hoe is total scrap metal, stuck at just 15% completion. But even with his arms burning from exhaustion, Lion is not backing down. He knows the drill: grind, practice, and repeat until you get it right. Quitting just isn't in his vocabulary. Eyes locked on the anvil, he keeps smashing that hammer down on the hot steel, pushing that system progress bar higher and higher. Up on the forge, his tiny fire spirit buddy works its magic, keeping the flames at the absolute perfect heat, letting Lion shape the iron like clay. Thanks to the spirit holding that sweet spot temperature, Lion falls into the perfect forging rhythm. Channeling every ounce of his strength, he brings the hammer crashing down onto the red-hot metal, sending a gorgeous shower of golden sparks flying everywhere. Ding! The system pops up, congratulating him for unlocking the blacksmith trait, hitting the apprentice rank instantly. Off to the side, Mudu is just screaming in absolute shock. The master dwarf stares at the flawless metal, totally dumbfounded. He quickly snaps out of it and yells at the kid to mount the blade before it cools. Still in awe, Mudu admits that the raw energy radiating from the metal Lion just hammered out is on a whole different level from anything he has ever seen. The duo teams up, moving like a blur to grind the edges and polish up the foam. Final details of this epic new gear. Gripping it tight, Lion jams the wooden handle right into the socket of the iron head, locking his brand new farming weapon in place. He pumps his fist in the air, hyped about crafting the Astari hoe. Not only does this bad boy skyrocket his harvesting speed, but it actually has the fire spirit's magic baked straight into the steel. Mudu can't stop hyping up the kid's insane potential, swearing that this masterpiece puts most veteran blacksmiths to shame. The dwarf tells him to take a breather and celebrate this huge win, and Lion smiles, looking like he is finally about to chill out. But nope, the blonde noble slams his hand on the workbench and demands to learn how to forge a harvesting sickle right this second. The Grandmaster dwarf just freezes, giving the screen this wildly funny, completely blank stare. He just can't process the kid's endless stamina. Then Mudu just loses, it bursting into huge belly laughs, absolutely loving the boy's psychotic obsession with mastering every single skill without hitting the brakes. He gladly agrees to pass on all his secrets. Meanwhile, Lion cheers, figuring his grandpa can wait just a tiny bit longer for him to return. Hours pass and a bright starry night takes over the sky, but the kid is still laser-focused on making his grandpa's big romance dream a reality. Deep inside the pitch-black, silent woods, The only sound echoing out to the wildlife is the heavy thud of metal chopping into wet dirt. Armed with his overpowered new hoe, Lion rips through the forest floor like butter bathed in the pale moonlight. A notification pops up. He just bagged a 1-star finger ginseng. It is a rare medicinal root that completely refills your stamina and breath. Lion is absolutely blown away. Having a top-tier tool literally feels like a cheat code for his farming speed. Staring closely at the harvested plant, the young noble narrows his eyes, realizing the buffs go way beyond just digging faster. With his new hoe and sickle combo, he can actually see a massive wave of hidden magical plants glowing all over the forest floor. A confident grin spreads across his face. If he just maxes out his hoe mastery, crafting that legendary 3-star potion will be an absolute breeze. With that goal locked in his brain, he decides to just keep tearing up the dirt until the new tool feels like a natural extension of his arm. Suddenly, a wave of system alerts starts spamming his screen, showing he just looted some random leaves and vines from something called a banana sweet potato. Peering down into the massive hole he just dug, Lion's eyes light up when he spots the sweet potatoes. He immediately starts dreaming about the insane loot drop buried down there. But out of nowhere, a massive blast of flames erupts straight from the tip of his hoe. The explosion spooks the kid so hard he falls flat on his back in the grass. A blue screen flashes, announcing that the fire spirit's blessing just triggered, spitting out a perfectly roasted, smoking, hot sweet potato. Lion pulls up the skill details on his system panel, absolutely fascinated by what he sees. Turns out, this awesome skill works on absolutely anything you can eat. The young guy holds up the golden, steaming food, totally amazed that one single strike gave him a perfectly roasted sweet potato. The rich scent hits his nose, making his mouth water like crazy. Starving, he decides to take a quick snack break before moving on. He takes a huge bite of the sweet potato, immediately gasping in surprise, as the blazing heat lightly burns his tongue. But even while blowing air out of his mouth to cool it down, a satisfied smile spreads across his face. He happily admits that he actually loves his food piping hot like this. The blonde-haired teen happily munches away, thinking to himself that sweet potatoes only hit the spot when they are fresh off the fire. He enjoys every bite of the soft, sugary treat, realizing this unique flavor totally wipes the floor with the regular sweet potatoes back on Earth. It has this unreal creamy taste, making it feel exactly like eating a warm potato dipped in fresh milk. Chilling on the grass under a sky full of stars, our guy is thrilled to score such a delicious meal out of nowhere. But his peaceful dinner is cut short when a few tiny, chubby birds flutter down onto the forest floor beside him. The young noble locks eyes with one perfectly round, little fluff ball that is staring right at his food. With a friendly tone, he asks if the tiny guy wants a bite. Lion holds out a piece of the sweet potato and tells the bird to dig in. The little creature gobbles it down and absolutely loves it, which makes Lion laugh out loud, telling his new buddy to eat as much as it wants. As the birds happily flutter around, a wave of nostalgia hits him. He remembers having a pet just like that back in the game and wonders if his old friend is doing all right. After that, Sugar Rush Lion stretches out with a satisfied groan. He decides it is finally time to start hunting for those potion ingredients. With his new little bird buddy chilling on his shoulder, he flashes an excited smile, thinking he should probably dig up a few more sweet potatoes first. Meanwhile, back at the massive family estate, a heavy sigh of pure stress echoes through the air. John leans against a tree, stressing out that it has already been 3 whole days since Lion snuck off. He has zero clue what the kid is actually doing at the forge, and he heavily debates running after him since the young master still is not back yet. Right on cue, Sylvia, the head housekeeper, steps directly into his line of sight. John vents that he is going crazy with worry, especially with all these nasty rumors claiming the young master is either at death's door or about to get kicked out. Out of thin air, Lion pops up waving with a huge grin. He casually asks if they were having a little hangout out here, making a wave of massive relief wash over John. The poor guy sprints over in a panic, totally shocked as he asks what on earth happened to Lion's clothes. But Lion just brushes it off, saying he is perfectly fine. Flashing an awkward smile, the young noble adds that it is honestly no big deal. John is completely stunned to see the air looking like a total mess, and then he confusingly points at the tiny bird perched on Lion's shoulder. Blinking in surprise, Lion looks at his new pet and asks the little guy when exactly it decided to tag along. The mood shifts as Sylvia slowly steps forward, her face dead serious. She looks him in the eye and tells him to drop the act. Lion quickly catches on, asking if his grandpa already spilled the beans. Rubbing the back of his neck, he lets out a soft chuckle, joking that the old man really does not know how to keep a secret. Sylvia is left standing there totally confused and trying to piece things together. But Lion just tells her to hold on a little bit longer, proudly announcing that he actually gathered every single ingredient they need. The head housekeeper freezes in absolute shock, unable to believe that this kid actually pulled off the impossible. Without wasting a second, Lion sprints toward the mansion, shouting back at her to give him just a little more time, promising to brew this thing up at lightning speed. He waves from a distance, yelling at John to just chill and get back to his regular chores, leaving his poor assistant standing there totally speechless. Snapping out of it, John chases after him, screaming at the boy to at least put some ointment on those crazy scratches covering his body. Meanwhile, Sylvia just silently watches the young guy run off, a deep, thoughtful look in her eyes. She thinks back on the harsh reality that normal potions are totally useless on her because she is a witch. Yet Lion, who's always been the weakest member of the Astri family, is the one pushing himself for her. She has a deep soft spot for the kid, and seeing him sweat it out at the forge and stay up all night picking herbs truly touches her heart. Even though she thinks the whole situation is a bit funny, she cannot deny this tiny warm spark of hope lighting up inside her chest. Taking a slow step forward, she whispers under her breath, realizing how desperately she wants to see what he ends up creating. Still, the witch cannot help but wonder if this frail boy can really brew a potion of such an insanely high tier. Fast forward a few days later, right inside the grand office, Patrick smoothly announces that she has finally shown up. The family boss closely watches the pure shock washing over Sylvia's face. Gripping the shiny potion flask in her hands, she looks completely blown away. With a shaking voice, she emotionally reveals that her mind, which had been stuck in a thick, depressing fog for decades, is suddenly crystal clear. She heaps praise on the young man for his insane hard work, making sure to add that this miracle never would have happened without the patriarch backing him up. But Patrick quickly throws his hands up, swearing he had nothing to do with it. He explains he is way too busy getting Lion's coming of age ceremony back on track after it got cancelled. Sylvia's eyes widen. If Lion pulled this off completely on his own, then things are a whole lot crazier than she thought. She stares down at the bottle on the desk, whispering that it looks just like the mythical potion of a real hero. The witch sighs, explaining that a hero always steps up to save the world right before it falls to darkness. But behind the scenes, their lives are pretty tragic, trapped in non-stop fights and left feeling totally empty with every hard choice. And the second piece finally comes back. Those heroes just poof gone, tossed aside like they were nothing but cheap tools. Patrick grips his fists tight. Yeah, they really do vanish, he mutters, not leaving a single footprint behind, like they just melted into thin air. The old man shakes his head sadly. His old friends and kids are still hunting for him today, but they have not found a single crumb of proof. He rubs his chin, stressing over what to do next. If Lion really is a hero, cursed with that kind of dark fate. Patrick's voice breaks. He already lost a brother in arms back in the day, and he absolutely refuses to watch his own grandson suffer the same way. Sylvia softens, flashing a warm smile. Then right now is the perfect time for us to stash the kid away where nobody can find him. She drops a total bombshell, announcing she is stepping down from her job, leaving the old man's jaw on the floor. Patrick jumps out of his chair. Are you crazy, he asks. Why throw away your own freedom just to babysit the kid? He tells her his biggest dream was finally ripping up that family contract, but Sylvia cuts him right off. Patrick. She glares at him, making it crystal clear that feeling sorry for a witch is the dumbest, most pointless thing you can do. Dark magic swirls around Sylvia as she proudly states she has got every single word of that contract locked in her brain. She quotes it word for word. The witch cannot step foot outside the Astari lands, but she gets to live a normal human life inside the borders. Deep down, Sylvia knows Lion gave her a chance to actually feel human again, so she is ready to go all in for him. Transforming back into her gorgeous true witch form, she smirks. She is going to be his personal bodyguard, and she will love every second of it. Cut to the study where the family's second son, Lixil Astari, just gets word about a brand new maid. He narrows his eyes, finding it super sketchy that she was hired just to wait on his big brother Lion. The guy is known as an absolute freak of nature, the future boss of the family and the youngest fourth circle mage to ever live. Lixil is a spitting image of his grandpa Patrick. He does not let his young age hold him back. He uses it like a deadly weapon. So for a smart kid like him, this new maid popping out of nowhere smells like a total rat. He flips through the files, thinking there is no way Sylvia just randomly quit, and someone else jumped into her spot this fast. The young guy flashes back to a chat he had with the old housekeeper just last night right in his bedroom. He noticed she was glowing and asked if she was seriously calling it quits. Sylvia nodded, saying she just dropped by to say goodbye. Pressing a hand to her chest, she swore that Lion's potion totally rebooted her health and energy like magic. But even hearing that, Lixil just shook his head. He just could not wrap his brain around such a lame excuse. So Sylvia playfully told him that if he was dying to know the truth, he should go spy on his brother himself. She teased him, bringing up how he used to shadow Lion everywhere when he was a little kid. Lixil turned red, muttering that it was a long time ago. The old woman chuckled, promising that every word she said was totally true and dropping a little hint that if he wanted answers, he better take action. She challenged him to stalk Lion for a whole day, leaving the young mage staring at the wall lost in thought. Lixil admits he let her go because she looked so at peace, but he still refuses to believe his clueless brother pulled all of this off. Obsessed with finding the truth, he packs up and heads straight for the Mimir forest. The exact spot Lion loves to hang out. Pitch black darkness covers the trees, a creepy thick woods right inside the massive Astari family turf. Trudging through the shadows, Lixil groans that the place is still a total dump without a single decent trail to walk on. He rolls his eyes, wondering what Lion even sees in this place, since he could just order John to grab whatever weeds he needed. Out of nowhere, a steady thud. 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 Against the dirt makes him freeze. What the heck is that noise out here in the wild? Lixil creeps a little closer and spots Lion down on his knees, fully zoned into digging around in the mud. Hiding behind a huge tree, he peeks out only to see his brother gripping something burning and glowing red hot. Having absolutely no clue what he is actually doing, Lion opens his mouth wide, ready to take a huge bite of that hot root right out of the damp dirt. Seeing this, Lixil totally freaks out, convinced his brother is about to eat actual garbage. He instantly activates his magic, screaming for him to freeze. Yelling that Lion cannot eat something so disgusting, he launches an ice blast that knocks the food right out of his hands, making his older brother scream in pure terror. As the dust settles, the two of them just stand there locking eyes with the most hilarious, dumbfounded expressions, totally processing what just went down. Then Lion collapses to his knees, crying tears of absolute agony as he looks at his beautiful roasted sweet potato now completely smashed into mush. Furious, he whips around, screaming to see who just ruined his snack, which leaves Lixil totally baffled by this dramatic reaction. Finally, recognizing his little brother, Lion asks what in the world he is doing out here, making the younger sibling panic since his cover is totally blown. Lixil starts sweating wildly, guessing if his older brother snuck out here specifically to catch him in the act. Meanwhile, Lion is freaking out too, convinced his little brother followed him just to keep a strict watch over his every move, which is entirely false. Trying to smooth things over, Lixil says sorry for the random magic attack, but defends himself, saying he could not just let him eat dirt. Annoyed, Lion snaps right back, telling him it is literally just a sweet potato. Going full nerd mode, Lixil asks if he means the starch-heavy root vegetable. This leaves Lion blinking in confusion, completely lost for words. Utterly shocked, the older brother asks if the kid has seriously gone his whole life without ever trying one, which makes Lixil look away, blushing in embarrassment. Shaking his head, Lion tells him he is missing out on one of life's greatest joys. Lixil just awkwardly wonders if a simple potato is really that big of a deal. Smiling, the blonde teen tells his younger brother to just take a seat, letting him know he is going to dig up a fresh batch for them to share. Flashing a sneaky grin, Lion glances back and asks if his little brother happens to know any fire magic. He asks if the kid can spark up a cozy campfire for the two of them, and Lixil casually agrees, saying a simple flame is child's play. He takes a seat gracefully on a fallen log, quietly admiring the warm crackling fire he just sparked up. Soon enough, Lion comes walking back into the light, carrying a massive pile of fresh sweet potatoes in his arms. He asks if the fire is good to go, and gets a quick nod from his brother. Without a second thought, Lion chucks every single potato right into the roaring flames. Lixil's jaw drops in pure shock, instantly panicking that they are going to burn to a crisp. But Lion just laughs it off, explaining that the tough skin actually protects the inside, giving it the perfect roast. Now, the two brothers just sit side by side in the peaceful dark woods. As they watch the glowing embers float up into the night sky, Lixil finally gathers his courage to break the silence, speaking up in a very shy manner. Giving him a warm smile, Lion casually mentions that breaking away from their strict daily routine and just doing something totally different is the best way to clear your head. He adds that working hard is great, but knowing when to chill out is just as important. Hearing this, Lixil nods softly, saying he totally gets it now. Suddenly, catching that mouth-watering smell in the breeze, Lion announces that the food is finally ready. He calls his little brother over so they can dig in. Lixil carefully holds the steaming golden potato in his hands. He takes a hesitant bite, only to be totally amazed by the soft texture and incredible taste. The moment that first bite hits, the younger brother is completely blown away that such a basic snack could taste this insanely good. Blushing a little, he admits that it is an absolute masterpiece. Smiling brightly, Lion happily explains that this special type is called a banana sweet potato. Even though their region never really gets freezing winters, the woods at night can still get super chilly and pitch black, which gives you the ultimate craving for a hot snack. The older brother smiles, remembering that pairing a steaming roasted sweet potato with some classic fish bread is hands down the best combo for beating the evening chill. Lion just sits back watching his little brother devour the food at lightning speed. He quickly realizes that this kid actually has a monster of an appetite. Chuckling to himself, he thinks about how boys his age are basically bottomless pits, bringing back fun memories of his own days as a hungry student. He used to be broke and survived on nothing but ramen. Lixil glances at the ground and chokes on his breath, staring at the huge mountain of empty sweet potato peels, wondering how he managed to scarf down that many. Lion gives a warm smile, saying he is just glad the snack hit the spot. The younger brother turns red and starts tripping over his words. He shyly admits that it actually tasted great, and Lion tells him to eat to his heart's content. He softly thanks Lixil for carrying the weight of the family when he couldn't. Lixil's eyes drop sadly. He murmurs that being sick is awful, but it breaks the hearts of those who have to just stand by and watch completely helpless. Lion quietly takes this in. He realizes he never really saw his own weak health as a burden or a curse. Gazing at his brother through the flickering campfire flames, he promises that he never ever held any of it against him. A soft smile reaches Lixil's face and he admits that, deep down, he is actually jealous of his older brother. Lion has this amazing spark inside him that Lixil feels he is missing. Flailing his hands nervously, the younger brother adds that he doesn't hate his role and promises to keep pushing himself to the limit. Lion chuckles, telling him to take it easy, that it is more than enough. Seeing how flustered he is, Lion smiles warmly, realizing that underneath it all, his little brother is still just a sweet kid. The older brother gets to his feet. He tells Lixil that he is at the right age to be a bit selfish and just do what makes him happy sometimes. If the books get too boring, he should take a break. Lion steps over and gives his shoulder a reassuring squeeze, telling him how proud he is of all the crazy hard work he has done for the family. They share this quiet moment under the bright starry sky. Lixil thinks back, realizing Sylvia was totally right. A warm feeling fills his chest, so glad he stepped out to have this real talk with his brother. A bit later, Lion chills on his bed scrolling through his system menu. His jaw drops when he sees he has banked over 70,000 shillings already. He realizes the cash shop is about to unlock. He silently cheers, pumped that his level shot up so much while brewing those meds for Sylvia. He chuckles under his breath, feeling a little bad that his grandpa got turned down by the housekeeper. But hey, their drama is not his problem. Lion stretches his arms high, riding the high of finally bonding with Lixil. Since the threat of getting tossed out on the street is gone for now, he figures it is time to just kick back and breathe. Right then a gentle knock echoes from his bedroom door. He answers right away, calling out for them to come inside. He throws out a casual hello to his visitor, but the words die in his throat. Confusion washes over his face the second the door swings open. A gorgeous girl with striking red eyes bows, calling herself Elvia, his brand new personal maid. But warning bells ring in Lion's head immediately. Something is fishy here. It takes him 2 seconds to realize it is actually Sylvia in disguise. He brushes it off, figuring that in a crazy fantasy world, full of dwarves, magic, shapeshifting is just another Tuesday. He puts on a polite smile, welcoming her to the job, and Elvia sweetly tells him to call her if he needs a single thing. Before she can turn around, Lion flashes a genuine smile and thanks her. From the bottom of his heart, he beams, letting her know that her little push helped him and his brother finally bridge the gap between them. Elvia totally plays dumb, tilting her head like she has no clue what he is talking about. Lion just laughs it off, telling her to forget it. The young noble grabs his bag, slinging it over his shoulder, and asks to hit pause on this fun little chat for now. Pushing past the doorway, he gives a friendly wave, explaining he has got a boys' day out planned with Lixil. Today, the camera pans out to the lively streets of the nearby town, bustling with locals chatting and soaking up the bright sunshine. Lixil quietly watches his older brother walk. He racks his brain, but no matter how he spins it, this whole setup is just plain weird. He cannot figure out why Lion's gas tank is always on empty, especially when the guy hikes up a literal mountain every single day. Flashes of his brother collapsing thousands of times cross his mind. Right now, Lion is dragging his feet, panting heavily. Lixil seriously doubts this is normal, thinking Lion desperately needs a healer from the temple to check him out. Catching how winded his brother is, Lixil pumps the brakes, matching his slow pace. He is terrified the older guy might totally crash and burn right before the huge family succession ceremony. So he hatches a secret plan to sneak a priest over for a checkup, keeping both the church and their strict family completely in the dark. He starts plotting the perfect cover. Then it hits him. The church loves their volunteer programs. Joining some charity work would be the ultimate disguise to rub elbows with the holy healers. Lion interrupts his thoughts, asking where they are even going. Lixil smooths things over, explaining that they need to drop their fancy noble act, so they are on the hunt for some solid disguise gear. The older brother raises an eyebrow, asking if they are just hitting up a standard tailor shop, but Lixil shakes his head immediately. He spins around, a huge excited grin on his face, and drops the big reveal. They are actually heading to a legit top-tier magic item shop. The view cuts to a gorgeous mystical storefront, packed with eye-catching displays. Soft wind chimes ring out a sweet melody as they step through the door. Lion's eyes light up with pure wonder the second he walks in. He admits he has no clue about this place. Lixil just brushes it off, explaining it is a hidden shop that probably does not sell anything illegal. The older brother raises an eyebrow, joking that probably is not exactly the most comforting word right now. The younger sibling just stands there looking completely awkward. While scanning the dusty shelves packed with weird potions and odd trinkets, Lion pauses. He notices something a bit strange. It feels super weird to him. All these amazing magical gadgets like sound-boosting earrings and self-writing pens, they all just look like cheap kids' toys. Lixel clears his throat, looking a bit flushed, and admits he actually found this spot back during his academy days. He swears up and down that the gadgets are actually super useful. But suddenly, a chubby bald guy pops up from behind the counter. He throws his arms wide open, loudly backing up Lixel's claim with wild energy. The shop owner shows off his self-washing hair machine, proudly bragging that they sell literally everything, except for a baldness cure. Lixel cuts to the chase, saying they need some disguise gear. The merchant's eyes light up happily, promising he has exactly what they want. With a super dramatic wave of his hand, he points to a crowded shelf, bragging that everything over there will easily hide their identities. He points out the budget-friendly stuff first. Simple things like bracelets and shoe inserts that barely change your look are kept on that side. Then, he pulls a hidden string. The top-tier items drop down. He hypes them up as top-quality gear to completely change your hair, but they cost a pretty penny. The brothers check out a glowing hair clip. This bad boy can completely change your hair and eye color for 10 whole hours completely undetected. A few minutes later, the shop bell rings as the boys step back outside. The owner cheerfully waves them off, telling them to drop by any time. Lixel turns and asks how he liked the place. Lion just grins, saying it was actually a blast, and he definitely wants to come back. Peeking into the bag, Lion notices the owner tossed in some freebies. Lixel just shrugs it off, figuring it is nothing but cheap junk, since that merchant is not exactly known for giving stuff away. But as they stroll down the street, Lion takes a much closer look, and his jaw drops. The glowing system window pops up, revealing a master repair kit. This thing can fix literally any broken item. He is totally stunned. How did they score something this rare for free? Lixel just waves his hand, saying he does not need any tools, so his brother can just keep it all. Lion smiles, really touched by his brother being so chill about it. The younger sibling then nudges him, saying it is about time they test out their new gear. Lion nods, pointing toward a dead silent alleyway right around the corner. The second, he slips on the magical item. Boom. A bright blue energy instantly wraps around his entire body. The disguise sets and Lion checks himself out, then looks over and completely hypes up Lixel's brand new look. It is honestly mind-blowing how he perfectly looks like a regular street peasant now. Lixel grins, saying this is more than enough to blend in. He asks if they are ready to roll, getting a super excited nod in return. A short walk later, they end up standing right next to a giant rushing water mill. Lion scratches his head, totally confused. Wait, why are they here, if they are supposed to be doing charity work? Lixel calmly explains that flour is on their donation list, so they had to hit up the mill first to lock down their order. Plus he adds that this place bakes some seriously mouth-watering fresh bread. Lion blinks in surprise. He totally thought water mills were just for crushing up wheat. Lixel swallows hard. He keeps a straight face, but deep down he knows that getting flour is just a cover-up. He has a major hidden agenda for coming to this exact spot. The owner of the mill, Nicholas, walks out flashing a massive grin. He warmly welcomes them, proving he is exactly the guy Lixel was hunting for. You see, the younger brother knows a secret. Nicholas is a massive local hero, famous for giving tons of money to charity. If he can just buddy up with this guy, it is his golden ticket straight into the Holy Temple. His ultimate goal is to track down a high-ranking priest. Nicholas casually asks if the grain order turned out okay. Lixel nods quickly. The friendly miller just cannot stop hyping up how top-tier their wheat was, happily admitting he almost cried, seeing grains so pure and totally bug-free. Then Nicholas tilts his head, wondering why on earth they need such a massive mountain of flour. Lixel instantly slaps on a sad face, making up a total sob story about seeing hungry street kids and wanting to help out. Nicholas clutches his heart, amazed by their pure kindness, and asks if they have picked a spot to drop the food off yet. Playing it cool, Lixel asks the miller if he has any good local spots in mind. The older man rubs his chin, thinking hard. Meanwhile, Lixel is screaming inside his head, begging him to mention the temple and jackpot. Nicholas points them toward a small orphanage run, straight by the main temple. Lixel is practically doing backflips in his mind. His master plan is going off without a single hitch. Trying to look casual, he asks how many kids live there. The miller sighs, gently saying it is not a huge crowd, just around 30 little ones. Lixel raises an eyebrow, acting surprised, mentioning he thought the Grand Temple had way better financial backing. But Nicholas shakes his head sadly. Their budget just got slashed. He explains that since this town only cares about fancy magic, the big noble families completely stopped giving money to the Holy Temple. The brothers share a look, finding that whole situation pretty messed up. The miller gives them a hopeful smile, praying they can feed the kids. But suddenly, Lion steps up, waving his hands and telling his brother to hold on a second. Lion just remembered, this place actually bakes real food. He quickly points out that just handing over raw flour means those starving kids will be waiting hours to finally eat. With his eyes totally sparkling, he throws out a wild idea. Why do they not just bake a massive batch of bread right here, right now? That way the kids can dig in the second they arrive. He worries the orphanage might not even have salt or yeast to begin with. Plus, hot, fresh out the oven bread would absolutely make those kids 10 times happier. Nicholas lights up. He absolutely loves the idea and promises they can easily pull it off. Slapping his chest, he proudly brags that his bakery makes the absolute best loaves in the entire territory. Lixel pauses, a thoughtful look crossing his face. He realizes he was so focused on his brother that he totally forgot to think about what the kids actually needed. A warm smile spreads across his face as he watches Lion help out. He realizes that his brother is genuinely a very caring and attentive guy. Lixel praises the awesome idea, and Nicholas nods in excited agreement. This leaves Lion beaming with joy from their support. With the plan set, he calls everyone over to start mixing and baking the bread. They jump right into action at the bakery. A system prompt pops up showing bags of 1-star whole wheat flour, bottles of 2-star olive oil sitting on the counter. Lixel checks out the ingredients, feeling sure that this premium oil will add a rich, amazing flavor to the dough. Nicholas chimes in explaining they will be baking classic whole wheat bread. It is a super easy recipe to follow, and he promises the kids will absolutely love it. Rolling up his sleeves with a confident grin, Nicholas suggests they start by mixing just a small test batch. He shows them the ropes. First, they need to knead the flour with just the right mix of salt, organic yeast, and fresh milk. Next, the dough goes into an olive oil greased bowl to rest and puff up nice and big. Once it doubles in size, it gets a good punch to push out the air, followed by folding in some crushed sunflower seeds. Wrapping up his mini tutorial, Nicholas proudly holds up the perfectly round dough, showing it is totally ready for the oven. Lixel watches the simple process, thinking that compared to the crazy rules of magic, baking bread is a piece of cake. He glances over his shoulder to check if Lion is done too. But the miller blinks in surprise, asking why the young master is still shaping his loaf. Lion replies that he just needs a bit more time. Nicholas nods, deciding to pop his and Lixel's dough into the oven first. Later, the miller opens the hot oven with an eager smile to check on their freshly baked loaves. But as the door swings open, they are greeted by a loaf that is completely charred, pitch black, and crumbling across the tray. Nicholas sighs, explaining that bread burns when you overload the pan. But he quickly comforts Lixel, reminding him it was just his first try and that the second loaf actually came out great. Right then, a mouth-watering aroma fills the bakery. The miller realizes Lion's batch is finally ready to come out. He pulls open the second oven door to check on the older brother's work. Instantly, a blinding golden glow bursts from the tray. The three of them stand frozen, completely blown away by the gorgeous sight. A system alert pops up grading Astery's whole wheat bread as perfectly crispy and flawless. Just like that, Lion hits level 2 in cooking. Nicholas stares wide-eyed at the glowing golden loaves, totally stunned. He stammers, asking how on earth Lion bakes something so perfect. Lixel is just as shocked, demanding to know his brother's secret. Lion just scratches the back of his head with a humble smile, saying it was no big deal. The blonde teen warmly explains that he just wanted the orphans to have the most delicious meal possible today, even if it is not something he can pull off every single time. He mentions he just scored the top of the dough to make it look pretty, but the results totally blew his mind too. This leaves the miller completely speechless. Nicholas can truly feel the deep, genuine care Lion holds for the kids. Lixel proudly praises his brother's crazy talent, and Lion gives him a warm, grateful thanks. Suddenly, the miller asks if they mind holding down the fort alone, rushing to explain he has a super urgent errand to run. Lixel nods right away, apologizing for holding him up so long. But Nicholas waves it off, insisting it was absolutely no trouble. The man dashes out the door, shouting back that he will return as fast as he can to help the young masters. Lixel worries he might have been a burden to Nicholas, but Lion pats his shoulder, saying they should just keep baking until the miller gets back. Fixing his baking gloves, the younger brother smirks and promises he won't lose this baking battle. Lion laughs, joking that he won't go easy on him then. Meanwhile, notifications keep popping up on Lion's system screen, showing his baking progress skyrocketing. The brothers get into a rhythm, pulling tray after tray of flawless, glowing bread from the hot oven. With every loaf, Lion's achievements climb higher and higher. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo at the doorway. It is the miller calling out loudly that he is finally back. Lion turns to greet him with a bright smile, but his jaw drops when he sees what is happening outside. Nicholas didn't come back alone. A massive crowd of townspeople is right behind him, carrying arms full of donations. They explain that Nicholas spread the word about the boy's kindness to the orphans, so the whole town decided to chip in and help out too. A blonde woman mentions her husband really wanted to come but was stuck working at the forge. Hearing this, Lion instantly realizes she is the wife of a dwarf. Lion quickly puts a finger to his lips, giving her a secret shh sign so she doesn't accidentally expose his true identity to Lixel. The blonde woman casually drops a massive heavy bag of supplies onto the floor, leaving Lion totally shocked by her crazy raw strength. The locals start unloading heaps of groceries, milk jugs, and tons of other supplies. One totally ripped lady drops a massive mountain of potato sacks onto the bakery floor in a single swoop. Lixel is just in awe of her crazy arm strength, suddenly remembering the rumor that she actually wrestled bears back in the day. Getting a bit emotional, the younger brother points out how generous this all is. Lion totally agrees, saying the locals here have a heart of gold. Lixel realizes this is what happens when you genuinely put your heart into things, feeling pretty guilty for only looking out for number one before. He shoots his blonde brother a look of pure respect, knowing deep down that as long as his older bro makes a full recovery, everything is going to be alright. He happily tells himself that his brother, Lion, is definitely destined for absolute greatness down the road. A couple hours later, they pull up to the local temple's orphanage, under a gorgeous, clear, sunny sky. The head of the orphanage is basically in tears, thanking the young nobles from the bottom of her heart for dropping off so many precious supplies. She asks how she could ever possibly repay them for being so kind. But Lion just gives a warm, humble smile, saying he is honestly just glad to help out. The little kids rush over to peek into the baskets, going crazy over the smell of the freshly baked bread, while the director reminds them to say their thank yous. The orphans eagerly pop open the boxes, cheering out loud when they realize they scored some really nice new clothes too. The woman asks the guys if they want to hand out the warm bread directly to the kids, while she takes the rest of the gear inside. Lion drops down to one knee with a warm look, handing out the loaves one by one to the cheerful orphans. They thank him while gushing over how good it smells, but right in the middle of all this happy chaos, Lion catches a faint rustle and spots something weird out in the yard. Peering past the garden trees, he locks eyes with a dark-haired kid staring right back with a super sad, empty look. The little guy totally panics when he is spotted by Lion and just bolts out of there, leaving our blonde hero pretty darn curious. Lion points toward where the kid ran off and asks the director about him. She sighs and tells him that the boy's name is Peter. She apologizes for how he acted, explaining that the kids are just little and really do not know how to handle high-class charity. Lion just stares off to where the boy vanished, whispering his name in a super deep, thoughtful tone. Out in the yard, Lixel walks up holding an empty basket, letting him know they basically finished feeding every last kid out there. He notices his older bro grabbing a fresh basket and asks where he is going with the leftover food. Lion glances back with a soft, warm smile, saying he really needs to go track down Peter since he is the only one who has not gotten his food yet. The director chimes in that Peter has had adoptions fall through just because he is super shy, and now he straight up rejects any food or gifts thrown his way. Lion watches the kid from a distance, guessing he is right around the same age as the tanner's kids back home on his estate. Seeing the boy hugging his knees tight, Lion realizes with a heavy heart that Peter is way too bony for a kid his age. He decides to walk up super quietly and softly calls out his name, making Peter jump and curl into an even tighter ball. Lion just casually takes a seat next to him on the grass, saying he brought something really good that the other kids left behind, holding out a fresh piece of bread. He tries to tempt his appetite by bragging that this homemade wheat bread is super soft, packed with flavor, and completely piping hot. The trick works like a charm because little Peter's stomach instantly rumbles super loud, totally giving away that he is absolutely starving. Lion lightly teases him, saying he definitely sounds hungry, making the poor kid turn red and just want to melt into the ground. But Lion quickly realizes that if he is turning down food when he is this starved, his trauma is way deeper than just a simple temper tantrum. He figures Peter just needs some time to breathe, so he decides to just stay planted right there next to him, totally quiet and patient. Meanwhile, way off in the distance, Lixel waves goodbye to the director, thanking her for everything before heading into the main building. Fast forward and Peter slowly wakes up in the shade, super confused that he somehow accidentally crashed out for an afternoon nap. The little guy stretches out, assuming all those fake show-off volunteers have finally left, muttering out loud about how annoying they all are. He grumbles that they just show up to feel good about themselves and never actually come back. But suddenly, he gets jump-scared by Lion's voice, casually asking if he had a good nap. Peter practically jumps out of his skin and yells, demanding to know why this guy is still hanging around. Lion just laughs it off, saying he did not want to wake him up because he looked so incredibly peaceful. He holds out that golden bread again, asking if he is ready to eat, admitting that he is honestly starving too and wants to split it. Peter just turns his head away, pouting and grumbling under his breath, making Lion calmly ask if he is really going to pass on even a tiny piece of this snack. The blonde hero says that is totally fine, but playfully warns him that in that case, he will just have to handle this warm bread all by himself. Without missing a beat, Lion tears the soft bread down the middle in a super dramatic way, sending that mouth-watering aroma straight through the garden air. Lion immediately takes a massive juicy bite out of his half. Peter stares at him, totally stunned, and yells out, asking what he is doing. Chewing his food, Lion just shrugs, saying it is a shame to waste a good meal and that he is planning to finish the whole thing. The little guy is completely speechless. Suddenly, panic sets in as Peter realizes the noble is actually about to swallow the other half of the bread that belonged to him. The kid lunges forward, snatching the snack right out of his grip. He shouts in a panic that he will eat it himself. Peter takes a quick bite and his eyes instantly light up the moment he tastes how unbelievably good that plain bread is. The little boy scarfs it down with a massive appetite, while Lion just watches with a warm, happy smile, glad to see the kid finally eating. The second Peter swallows the very last crumb, Lion gently hands him a whole new loaf. Smiling softly, the young man tells him that this one was meant to be his own lunch, but he really wants Peter to have it. The boy just stares up at Lion's bright blue eyes shining in the sunlight, thinking this whole situation is super weird and not what he is used to. He looks down at the plain bread knowing it has no magic in it, totally confused as to why it tastes so amazing. He really wonders how a basic piece of food could have such a warm and comforting taste. It makes him think about how grown-ups only do charity work to look good, just wanting to seem like nice people to the public. Peter feels a heavy sadness, remembering the couples who faked loving him only to bring him right back, claiming he did not feel like their real child. Silent tears fall as he takes another bite, bitterly telling himself that all grown-ups are just selfish liars. Right then, Lion gently calls his name, asking softly if little Peter knew a funny secret about older folks. He tells him that adults stop eating when they get sad and always regret it later, praising the kid for eating so well. Even with the heavy mood, Lion gives him a warm smile and admits he baked that bread himself, hoping it would bring a big smile to whoever ate it. The noble says he is thrilled to see Peter loving the food, leaving the little guy completely moved and out of words. Lion playfully leans in, asking if he is shedding a tear. But Peter turns bright red and yells that his eyes are only watering because the bread is way too good. The young man chuckles, teasingly asking if that is really why, and little Peter just nods, shyly agreeing with him. Bathed in the warm sunset glow, the boy finally gives a genuine, heartfelt thank you for the noble's kindness. Lion holds out his pinky finger, promising to bring even more fresh bread the next time he visits. The kid stares at his hand in shock, asking if he really means it. Lion swears he has never broken a promise in his whole life. Flashing a confident smile, the young man tells Peter to remember those words from now on. They link pinkies to lock in the promise. Peter smiles big, bragging that he is going to eat 2 whole loaves next time. Lion pats his head, joking that he better aim for 3. He laughs out loud as the boy playfully argues back. Watching from a distance, the orphanage director is deeply moved. She whispers to herself, totally amazed by the noble's pure heart. She wonders just how long it has been since little Peter smiled so brightly out in the yard. Guilt washes over her for pushing the kids away because she was too busy. She realizes that true care was all they ever needed. Seeing the two hold hands, the woman feels certain that a guy as genuine and sweet as Lion deserves every blessing in the world. As the sun goes down, the director and the kids wave a cheerful goodbye. Lion and Lixel wave back, ready to head home. But the director runs up, begging the guys to stay a little longer. She says she cannot just let such wonderful helpers leave so soon. She quickly explains that she called for the local priest and he is actually on his way right now to pray for the orphans. She insists they get a blessing from the holy man before taking off. The invite catches Lixel and Lion off guard. Lixel is secretly thrilled that his plan is working perfectly. He politely accepts, saying it would be rude to turn down such a lovely offer. The director lights up at his answer, happily leading the 2 young nobles back inside. Right then, the loud clatter of horse hooves echoes outside. The priest's carriage has finally pulled up to the gate. Priest Lich pulls back the window curtain to check the place out. He is a young guy, wearing glasses, looking incredibly serious, strict. Once inside the office, Lixel leans in and whispers, asking if Lion wants to skip this meeting, worried that the temple guy might cause him trouble. Lion totally agrees and jumps right up, faking a story about a super important errand he just remembered back at the mansion. Lixel is a bit shocked by how fast he moves, but Lion just smiles and waves goodbye. He tells his brother to handle the church business while he heads back to his training. Left alone, the younger brother thinks this is actually for the best. It would be a disaster if the priest found out their true identities and held a grudge against their family. He decides he needs to test this priest's character first. Lixel opens the door and hears a soft, welcoming voice. High Priest Lich stands there, greeting him with folded hands. May the divine light bless our generous nameless friend. Lixel nods, making it clear he wants to stay out of the spotlight. The priest smiles, mentioning the orphanage director actually spilled the secret to him. Lixel sizes, licked up. He looks awfully young, plus stepping out of the temple just to pray in person. This guy is definitely no ordinary priest. Licht hands him a warm cup of tea, expressing deep gratitude for the massive donations. But Lixel waves it off. It was a team effort, he says, humbly, pointing out that the real genius behind handing out all that fresh bread was actually his older brother. The priest tilts his head. Ah, you mean the young man who had to step out early because he was feeling sick? Lixel nods, confirming it. Gripping his hands tightly, Lixel's face falls. He admits his brother has always been incredibly weak, battling a nasty long-term illness. Taking a deep breath, he drops the truth. They didn't come for charity. It was all a setup just to get his sick brother in front of him. Lick's face softens into a warm smile. He quickly calms the nervous kid down, feeling terrible that someone with such a golden heart is struggling with his health. Then leaning in close, the priest drops his own secret. He actually sneaked out of the temple to be here today. Lixel blinks, totally caught off guard. He nervously watches Lick push up his glasses, his heart pounding. Is he going to say no to the healing? The priest's face gives away absolutely nothing. A tense silence fills the air. Finally, the priest speaks up. I'll see you in exactly 3 days. Lick tells him to bring his brother back at that exact time, promising to finally check him out and treat his illness. Flash forward 3 days. Back at their massive home, Lixel bursts into the bedroom screaming for his brother. Lion jumps out of his skin, letting out a goofy yelp. Lixel glares at him. Dude, why are you still wide awake at this hour? Lion rubs the back of his neck, mumbling that sleep just wasn't happening. Anyway, what's with all the shouting? Lixel's eyes are practically sparkling. The priest, he agreed to check on your health. Lion just stares at him, totally lost. He wants to help Lixel beams, explaining that the holy man was incredibly touched by all the stuff they gave away. Lion blinks. Wait, I'm not even sick, he thinks to himself. Ever since his special system woke up, his condition completely vanished. He doesn't have a single thing wrong with him anymore. Honestly, he's been feeling completely full of energy lately. Still, getting close to a high priest is a golden chance. A slow smile spreads across Lion's face as he happily agrees to go. You can practically see a huge weight lift off Lixel's shoulders, his eyes shining with pure joy. Still, he admits the midnight timing is definitely a bit weird. Lion has to agree. A midnight meetup is super sketchy. Fast forward to the orphanage meeting. Lion is completely glued to a fancy glass bottle on the desk. Top-tier holy water, the kind you only get from the real deal. Hey, Lixel calls out. Lion spins around only to see his little brother walking in right next to the high priest Licht. The priest quietly studies them both. Lion gives a polite bow, and Licht warmly blesses the two guys who brought so much kindness into his heart. With a welcoming smile, the priest pushes the office door open, waving the brothers inside for a nice quiet chat. As soon as they hit the chairs, Lion raises a hand. I gotta ask. Licht gives a soft smile. Go right ahead. The blonde leans forward. Is there some big secret reason we had to do this in the dead of night? The priest goes quiet for a second. Then he drops a bombshell. He had a really intense dream about the two of them just recently. Lion and Lixel Trade looks instantly hooked. He breaks it down for them. Sometimes, really strong holy magic users get signs from above while they sleep. Real deal, future-seeing dreams. Lixel leans in. What exactly did you see? The holy man just lets out a warm, easy chuckle. Oh, nothing crazy, I promise. He paints the picture of a bunch of kids snoozing peacefully out in an open field. And right there, watching over them like guardians, were the two brothers. I woke up feeling so warm inside, I just had to meet you guys. But deep down, he was hiding a secret motive. He needed to check something out. The priest stares straight into their eyes. Internally, he's thinking I had to see for myself who these mysterious guys from my vision really are. Out of the corner of his eye, Licht breaks Lixel down. He notes the kid is super young, but clearly a high-class magic user with flawless manners. Astery family, no doubt, he guesses. But are they really here for a checkup or just snooping on the temple? Pushing his doubts aside, Licht speaks up. Ready to get this checkup started. Lixel gives a quick nod and steps outside to give them room. All right, let's begin, the priest says, stepping right behind Lion's chair. Lion sucks in a deep breath. Hey, take it easy on me, all right, boom. Licht fires up his holy magic. A blinding bright green energy wraps tightly around Lion's back, completely lighting up the room. But suddenly, the magic cuts out. The priest freezes, staring wide-eyed at Lion's. Looking totally lost, he wonders why there isn't a single change in Lion's body. He did the blessing perfectly and has plenty of holy power to spare. Sweating, he pushes even more divine energy into his hands. His anxiety spikes, terrified he messed up somehow. Licht is completely stunned that the magic isn't reacting at all. Meanwhile, Lion just calmly says he feels it working. Wrapped in a soft glow, the young guy smiles and mentions that his body actually feels a whole lot better now. Lion tells him that's enough healing for one day. The priest is left completely dizzy and stuttering. Licht thinks to himself there are only 3 reasons why a body wouldn't react to a high priest's power. Number 1, a stronger mage is blocking it. Number 2, the person is already super healthy and doesn't need any healing. And the final reason, the patient was born with a painfully short lifespan. This thought makes the cleric panic. Licht steps right up to Lion, swearing to help him, no matter what, if he ever needs a doctor again. He grabs Lion's hands tight, totally catching the young guy off guard with this intense, sudden move. The cleric begs him to rush to the temple and drop his name anytime the pain keeps him awake at night, leaving Lion pretty confused. Licht promises he'll do whatever it takes to heal him, begging him to promise he understands. Still a bit weirded out, Lion agrees. As they say goodbye, Lion sincerely thanks him for caring so much. Licht reminds him his door is always open. The two brothers head home while the priest watches them leave, a deeply worried look on his face. Lion scratches his head, totally puzzled by the extreme health warnings, wondering why it made him feel so weird. Their carriage rolls right through the gates of the grand Astri castle, shining under a beautiful morning rainbow. Lixil is thrilled. His brother is feeling better, smiling that the trip was totally worth it, and Lion happily agrees. He thinks to himself that the holy magic really wiped away all his muscle aches and all that tiredness from baking bread all night long. Then the blonde notices his little brother has heavy dark circles and asks if he is exhausted, but Lixil brushes it off, claiming he's totally fine. The younger one waves goodbye, saying he has to go do his morning mana training, leaving Lion amazed by his crazy work ethic. As Lixil slowly walks off, Lion warns him that staying up all night and pushing himself like that will just cause burnout later. The blonde watches him leave, thinking that on top of his strict training routine, Lixil has somehow gotten even busier lately. Worried about his brother crashing, Lion talks to Elvia. She suggests he should just ask the patriarch about the ceremony schedule. Elvia points out that the patriarch is probably swamped right now with the coming of age ceremony prep. This gives Lion a brilliant idea. Hyped up, he decides to go visit his grandpa. Bringing along some sweet cookies, he baked himself with a little help from the kitchen staff. The blonde guy ties on his apron and starts kneading the dough right on the table while Elvia watches. Lion punches the dough with tons of energy, super focused on baking the absolute best recipe for his grandpa. He thanks Sylvia for the great idea and wonders if his grandpa even likes sweets, since cookies are such a nice, light snack. She quickly corrects him, saying her name is Elvia, and warns him that his grandpa doesn't really have a sweet tooth, but he'll definitely eat whatever the young master makes. Lion smiles warmly and says either way, he really hopes the patriarch loves the taste. Suddenly, he remembers something and gasps out loud, making the maid jump. Elvia watches him rip open some bags of potatoes, giving him a super suspicious look as she wonders what the heir is up to. Shocked, she asks if he is seriously putting sweet potato into the dough. Lion confidently says yes. She thinks that flavor combo sounds super weird, but the heir just wants to prove it tastes amazing. Lion slices the sweet potatoes super thin, explaining he's using its natural sugar so his grandpa can eat them guilt-free. Smiling bright, he starts shaping all the little pieces of dough right onto the baking sheet. He uses adorable little molds shaped like stars, cats, and little birds, thinking about getting some brand new custom cutters made later on. With everything perfectly shaped, he lines up the cookies on the pan and pops them straight into the hot oven. A system window suddenly pops up, saying his special banana sweet potato cookies are done and that eating them actually lowers body fatigue. Lion is mind blown that regular food can pack actual potion effects, but Elvia is just super impressed, praising him for whipping up such an awesome recipe from scratch. The maid suggests he take the first bite to check the taste. The blonde boy eagerly agrees, totally hyped to try it out. As Lion savors the cookie, his eyes light up. It tastes way better than anything he had in his previous life. Right on cue, his cooking skill levels up. Elvia points out that sugary treats are perfect for beating exhaustion. She's totally sure the family head will love it since the sweetness is balanced to absolute perfection. The blonde kid thanks Elvia for all her help in the kitchen, but she just humbly smiles, saying she was only doing her job as a maid. Lion steps up, saying he'll handle the rest of the cleanup and insists she go take a break. The maid is completely caught off guard by him sending her away. Flashing a warm smile, the young master playfully explains that he still has some top-secret stuff left to prepare. He watches her leave the room, letting out a sigh of relief. After all, he can't exactly open his system menu and inventory right in front of her without looking suspicious. Now that his cooking level is up, he decides to brew a special beverage to perfectly match those sweet cookies. He scrolls through the magical herbs on his glowing blue screen, deciding to brew up a stamina-boosting drink to give his brother a much-needed lift. Lion locks in his choice to make the training support beverage. It's a deep bread drink that he knows his grandpa and Lixil will absolutely love. The ingredients look super familiar to him, making it the perfect pairing for the cookies. Now he just needs to focus on the overall quality. The young guy checks out his materials, noticing that the fresh one-star oranges and lemons are top tier for this recipe. Pumping with energy in the grand kitchen, Lion ties his apron tight and dives straight to work. He scrubs the fruits clean, slices them into super thin strips, and gently heats up a basic health potion on the stove. Once the fruit is nice and tender, he tosses in some star anise, waiting for that bold, refreshing flavor to soak in. The second that sweet smell hits the air, he carefully strains the hot liquid to filter out all the chunky bits. Finally, he drops in a tiny bit of magical rosemary oil straight into the cup to top off the whole mix. The drink is done. Lion realizes it looks and smells just like the mulled wine from his old world, and the system tags it as an alchemy support item. He takes a sip and is absolutely blown away by the taste. He figures this is the perfect time to serve the drink alongside those cute bear cookies. Right then, the system officially registers the 2-star Astri family special drink, set a meal designed to cure extreme exhaustion and muscle pain. Because he put together a full combo menu for the very first time, Lion scores a brand new achievement, bags 3,000 gold coins, and feels incredibly proud of his hard work. With his kitchen duties officially wrapped up, the young guy pulls off his apron, feeling like a total boss. Balancing the tray full of his glowing magical snacks, he heads straight for his grandfather's office. Lion walks into the grand room and politely asks if the old man is swamped with work right now. Patrick spots the tray and asks what he's carrying, wondering why the mansion staff aren't carrying it for him like usual. The blonde boy just smiles, saying he went out of his way to bring it all, personally because he wanted to hand-deliver the treats. Setting the tray down on the heavy desk, he explains that he mixed the drink using a potion crafted earlier on top of baking the cookies from scratch so they could share a nice snack together. The grandpa stares at the glowing food in shock, asking if his grandson really made all of this entirely on his own. Lion proudly nods. He mentions that he figured this would be a cool way to show off how much he's grown and display his brand new cooking skills. The boy warmly offers up the treats, and Patrick hesitates for a second before grabbing a cute bear-shaped cookie. The moment he takes that first bite, the patriarch's eyes go wide in pure shock. The pastry literally melts in his mouth. He catches the faint, delicious scent of sweet potato and realizes that the sugar balance is out of this world. It's a completely unique and magical taste. Lion watches his cooking level jump up again, feeling super thrilled that his tough old grandpa actually loves his homemade snack. Out of nowhere, Patrick bluntly tells the kid to just spit out what he wants. This catches Lion totally off guard. The old man smirks, saying there's no way he came all the way to the office just to hand out cookies. He asks what the real favor is, which makes the blonde boy chuckle at how sharp his grandpa is. Lion stares at his cup softly, mentioning that he heard his coming of age ceremony is coming up pretty soon. The grandson gently asks if they could just let Lixel take a well-deserved break until the big event. The patriarch blinks, totally surprised by the selfless request. Lion explains that since the entire family will be at the ceremony, he feels like his little brother's brutal training routine is just way too much to handle right now. He asks to cut back on his brother's harsh training until the party, so that everyone can show up looking healthy and happy. Patrick is hit with a massive wave of emotion. The tough old man fights hard to hold back his tears, totally overwhelmed by how much his grandson has grown into such a caring, protective young man for their family. Patrick thinks back to how brothers usually fight for control of the family, but seeing these two share such a strong, genuine bond just fills him with total pride. The old man agrees to cut back on his little brother's training schedule, leaving Lion beaming with absolute joy. But then Grandpa leans in and asks if that is really it. He wonders if his grandson seriously does not have any other special wishes or requests. When it comes to ceremony gifts, Lion just looks confused and says he really does not need anything. Patrick smiles, amazed by how his grandson has zero greed. But still, gifts are the absolute highlight of this kind of party. The family head knows this coming-of-age ceremony is the perfect chance to flex the family's massive power. After all, in this empire, handing your heir the rarest, most insane treasure is the ultimate way to show off your wealth. So Grandpa completely overthinks it. He figures that his grandson asking for nothing must be some kind of secret code. With an intense dark glare, Patrick decides that Lion actually wants him to hunt down the perfect, flawless gift to shock everyone. Spooked by the heavy, sudden aura pouring out of his grandpa, the blonde quickly says goodbye and makes a run for it. Lion shuts the door behind him, leaving the old man alone in his office deep in thought as he takes a sip of his hot tea. Patrick just sits there completely obsessed with figuring out how to score the absolute best present ever for the big day. Walking down the hall, Lion scratches his head, totally confused by his grandpa's weird reaction. Meanwhile, in another room, Lixel is completely crashed out at a messy desk buried under mountains of paperwork. Suddenly, someone calls his name from the hall. Lion kicks the door wide open, making his little brother jump. Lixel yelps in surprise as the blonde makes a flashy entrance. Lion just chuckles at the messy room, teasing that he never knew his little bro was such a total slob. Blushing hard, Lixel admits he never ever wanted his older brother to catch him living in such an embarrassing, cluttered mess. The younger boy asks what brings him by, and Lion holds up a tray showing off some homemade snacks to help give him an energy boost. They chill on the couch together, and Lixel grabs one of the cute, bear-shaped cookies, taking a huge bite. His eyes instantly go wide with pure shock. Mouth still full, he yells out that his big brother's cookie is insanely good. He praises Lion's crazy baking skills, saying he knew his older brother had a real gift ever since he first watched him bake bread. The older brother sighs, noting how hard Grandpa works them. So he tells his little bro to just kick back and relax until the big day. He smiles, explaining he already got Grandpa's okay, mostly because Lixel looked completely fried from all that non-stop training. Deeply touched by his brother's sweet gesture, Lixel warmly thanks him for the much-needed break. But Lixel sighs, saying his stress is not actually from studying. Lion gasps, totally shocked. Is it love letters, he figures. His little brother is finally at that age to chase girls. But Lixil quickly clears things up, saying he is just freaking out over the ceremony. Hearing that the blonde finally realizes he is talking about the family's classic magic ritual for the event. It is called the Library Labyrinth, a magic doorway that leads you straight to the exact spell you need most. Try to force it and you are trapped in an endless maze. But if you play by the rules and make it to the end, you win a rare magic item. Finding it super sweet that his little brother is worried about his lack of mana. Lion pats his back, saying the whole thing is just for show. But Lixil shakes his head, revealing the real nightmare is actually the outfit they have to wear. The blonde blinks, totally confused. Is a suit, really? Something to stress over that much? The younger brother looks up, asking if he has even seen what Grandpa ordered him to wear for the special day. Lion says no. Lixil slams a sketch on the table and points right at it. Turns out the mighty Grandpa has one massive secret weakness. Lion stares at the ugly drawing, realizing the old man has zero fashion sense. His big day is totally ruined. They both agree an 8th Circle Archmage could never wear such an absolute disaster to a public event. The blonde scratches his head, confused since Grandpa always dresses so well. Lixil sighs, explaining that Sylvia is the one who always secretly fixes his fashion disasters, blessing Sylvia's hidden heroics. Lion hatches a plan. He decides to get stylish, matching outfits custom-made for the whole family. Sneaking into the city in disguise, the blonde drops by Leah's workshop. The kids rush him, super hyped to see the young master. He high-fives the little ones and hands out a bag of his fresh homemade cookies, completely making their day. Leah warmly thanks him for the sweet gift and asks what brings him around. The young man smiles, saying he needs a massive favor. As she leans in curious, Lion asks about that super talented tailor who used to volunteer with them back at the orphanage. The young man asks for an introduction. Leah blinks in surprise, completely confused by the heir's sudden interest in the Stan tailor. Lion explains that the guy's unbelievable skills during their volunteer work left a huge impression on him. He mentions how the man-made clothes fit the kids perfectly, creating beautiful outfits out of just leftover scraps. The blonde says he desperately needs someone with that kind of talent. Leah replies that she can definitely track him down, but she hesitates. Lion asks if there is an issue, and she gently warns him that it will all make sense once he arrives at the location. Following her directions, the young man ends up in a creepy, isolated alley. It looks completely abandoned and mysterious. He stops in front of a rundown boutique with a broken sign, wondering if he actually found the right spot. The wooden sign squeaks as it swings in the wind, making the blonde feel even more nervous about this sewing shop. He steps inside the dark room full of creepy mannequins, finding it super weird that a talented pro works in a place like this. Lion calls out at the front counter, when suddenly, a man in dark sunglasses steps out of the shadows. He greets his customer with a super cold attitude, but in a flash, the tailor completely changes his tune. He lets out a dramatic happy scream when he realizes someone actually visited his shop. The blonde tries to say something, but the tailor already recognizes him as the young man from the orphanage. Though he finds his new hair and eye colors a bit strange and awkward, Lion explains that he is the oldest grandson of the Astari family. He had to wear a disguise that day just to stay safe. The tailor totally gets it. He says a young noble definitely has his own reasons for walking around town in disguise. The man asks why such a VIP is visiting his humble shop, and the youth reveals he is looking for a top-tier tailor. The tailor jumps back in surprise. He points out that a rich and powerful family like the Astars shouldn't need his services. He quickly invites the noble inside, suggesting they sit down and have a calm chat. He leads the way to the living room. Walking in, Lion spots several high-ranking Empire medals sitting on the shelf. The man blushes, saying it is embarrassing to have guests here. He offers him a seat and goes to brew some tea. Lion suggests they share the cookies he brought. The tailor pours the hot tea and apologizes for not having anything better to offer because he is totally broke right now. The blonde youth hands over the sweets, saying he baked them himself. This leaves the experienced tailor with his jaw on the floor. He remembers that this young man also made the amazing bread they gave to the orphanage, and he gets super excited to try it. Curious about how these bear-shaped cookies taste, he happily takes a cookie. Taking a bite, the tailor loves the crispy crunch and yells out, absolutely amazed by how wonderful it tastes. The sweet treat melts right in his mouth, giving off a feeling that starts out really pure, simple, and delicate. But right after, the flavor explodes into something intense and dramatic. It wakes up deep feelings inside the man's heart. He feels the taste hit his chest like a moving romance story between a prince and a simple village girl. Deeply moved by the food, the man cries tears of joy. He passionately declares that the word delicious is just too weak for this treat. The tailor shouts in pure bliss that this is not just food. It is a true work of art. Andrew thinks to himself that the young master is full of fascinating surprises. Lion is just relieved to see how much he loved them, Still tearing up, the tailor wipes his mouth with a napkin and praises the amazing snack he just got from Lion. Andrew admits he almost bawled his eyes out, promising that eating this incredible treat gave him so much inspiration to work. He thanks the noble for sharing something so tasty and promises to answer any question with absolute honesty. The tailor guesses that he came to order special clothes. Lion confirms that is exactly why he traveled all the way here. Andrew proudly states that he is amazing at making patterns, cutting fabrics, and doing embroidery, but he gives a serious warning about his career. He points out that other nobles will hate knowing he designed the clothes. Lion might even become a laughing stock at the event if he wears his work. The tailor sadly admits that he is the secret child of a noble family. This makes Lion realize just how prejudiced privileged people can be. Andrew explains that rumors about his birth ruined his business. The nobles abandoned him just because he started selling clothes to regular folks too. The man suggests they lie and say a beginner made the clothes. But Lion cuts him off, asking to see his finished pieces first. The tailor says he only has basic commoner clothes left in the shop. Lion smiles and says he just wants to check the quality of his sewing. Andrew pulls back the curtain to show his stock. The blonde youth freezes in pure shock when he sees what is hiding back there. Over there, the tailor shyly mentions these are just simple pieces for the locals. But Lion, he is totally amazed by the perfect stitching. When he sees those garments glowing with 2- and 3-star ratings on his system screen, the young heir knows he found a true genius. He stares at the clothing racks in total shock, realizing this guy has a crazy talent that goes way beyond normal limits. The blonde boy realizes that making 2-star gear out of cheap everyday cotton means his technique is purely magical. Lion's heart races just picturing the mind-blowing masterpiece this guy could make if he actually got his hands on some premium magic materials. Locking eyes with Andrew, Lion firmly declares, with total confidence, that he wants this tailor to make his outfit for the massive coming-of-age ceremony. The poor guy freezes, terrified of making the noble look bad, but the heir swears nobody would ever dare mock them, demanding just one answer. Will you do it? Holding up 3 fingers, the blonde boy makes it clear that he needs 3 full outfits totally finished before the big day. Lion stares him down, challenging his skills, leaving the tailor sweating and deep in thought over such a crazy request. Taking all the pressure off him, the heir says the man just has to choose if he is brave enough to take this on. Andrew thinks about this rare chance to handle noble fabrics without any backlash. He knows no real tailor could ever walk away from this, with his face burning bright red from pure excitement. Andrew bows deep and accepts the job with everything he has got. Seeing this brings a huge smile to Lion's face. The excited man grabs a notebook and a glowing pen, eagerly asking what kind of look the young master wants and what specific details he should add. Lion starts breaking it down. He wants a clean, classy style that shows true family unity. Nothing too old school or too childish. But Andrew completely panics when it hits him that the scary family head will also be wearing his clothes. He freaks out, asking if the young lord is really sure about this. The blonde just smiles back, asking what other nobles' trash talk has to do with his own family, proving he does not care at all about the rumors. Stammering, the tailor admits that no one would ever insult the Astri clan, since they are just as scary as the royals themselves. Lion nods, confirming that is exactly how the world works. This leaves the tailor speechless, totally fired up by that rock-solid confidence. Andrew swears on his life that he will pour his soul into making the greatest outfits ever for this huge family event. He claims the perfect design is already in his head, he just needs to know if they have any specific fabrics in mind. Right then, the boy pulls a mysterious catalog out of his bag. The second he spots the ancient, glowing book, the tailor goes into shock. He instantly recognizes the legendary rare fabric catalog of the famous Astri family. Tearing up, the man cries that he could die happy just seeing it in person, practically begging to open the priceless book. Lion happily gives him permission. With shaking hands, the tailor slowly opens the ancient pages of the magical book. A blinding golden light bursts out of the catalog the second it opens. The veteran tailor is completely amazed by the glowing thread samples woven by actual elves. It reveals top-tier fabrics you can almost never find. Andrew is in pure disbelief, seeing cloth literally woven with fairy and mage magic. Realizing all those crazy legends were actually true, Lion casually asks if anything caught his eye. And the dizzy tailor replies that the real problem is trying to find a fabric he does not love. Suddenly, the man freezes. He stops flipping pages, totally stunned by one very specific fabric sample that grabs his focus. Instantly, Lion asks what is wrong with that material. Andrew softly reveals that he once met a young woman who loved wearing this exact same stuff a long time ago. The man claims he never ever forgets a thread he touches, and it blows his mind too. See this material sitting in the book even though the page has zero info on it. Hooked by the tailor's story, Lion steps right up to get a closer look at the mysterious glowing sample for himself. His system screen pops up, revealing this 3-star fabric was literally handcrafted by an archmage for his daughter. This makes Lion immediately think of his grandfather. Putting the clues together, Lion realizes that mysterious woman from the past was his late mom. Since the item clearly states an archmage made it, right then and there, the boy decides this family treasure has to be used for their matching outfits. And Andrew, jumping with excitement, swears he can make it work perfectly. The tailor is just about to start measuring the young lord when out of nowhere they hear heavy footsteps rushing toward them. Lich busts into the shop, asking if the deal is done, explaining that he got held up trying to bring in some extra supplies. Andrew blinks in confusion at the word supplies, pointing out that there sure is a lot of racket coming from right outside the store. Suddenly, Lion and Andrew hear a loud commanding voice yelling out there, barking orders to start unloading crates, making both guys inside jump in surprise. Peeking out the door, their eyes widen. They are staring at a whole line of carriages packed with premium fabrics, rare materials, and high-end sewing gear. Lixil steps out casually, revealing that he just found out his older brother was already secretly keeping an eye on things. A local tailor is absolutely stunned when they bring him top-tier brand-new equipment. The younger brother chimes in, saying he would do whatever it takes to get ready for his big brother's crucial coming-of-age ceremony. Flashing a warm smile, Lixil casually adds that hooking him up like this is the absolute least he could do. Lion chuckles at the huge pile of gifts. He teases Andrew, asking if he actually misses his old tools, but the tailor cuts him off. Tears of joy streaming down his face, the tailor practically screams, begging to trade out his old gear for the sleek new sewing machines right away. A bit later, after getting the shop sorted out, Andrew deeply thanks Lion for being so patient while taking his measurements for the new outfits. The tailor swears up and down that he will craft an absolute masterpiece, though the young heir just tells him to take it easy and not overwork himself. Before they finish talking, Lion leans in, admitting he has one more tiny personal favor to ask the talented tailor. He asks if whenever he has some free time, Andrew could teach him the basics of sewing. The request leaves both Lixil and the tailor completely speechless. Andrew quickly warns him that beginners tend to poke themselves and get hurt a lot, but Lion calmly brushes it off, saying it is not a big deal. The blonde teen explains he does not want to make anything crazy right now, he just wants to learn the fundamentals. Confused, the tailor asks why he would even want to learn. Lion smiles, saying he wants to fully appreciate the hard work and passion that Andrew pours into every single stitch of his clothes. Completely moved by the boy's thoughtful words, Andrew happily agrees. He explains that every single cut and thread really does carry the soul of the person making it. The tailor bows with deep respect, promising to hold nothing back and gladly teach Lion everything he knows about the craft. Andrew asks if he can take Lixil's measurements first, leaving Lion free to wander around and test out whatever he wants in the newly upgraded shop. Outside, the sun starts to set, casting a warm golden glow across the beautiful front window of the tailor's shop. Lion slowly walks around the room, checking out the shiny new tools. He cannot get over how amazing all this modern equipment is, no matter how long he stares at it. Suddenly, he spots a super worn-out pattern for some cotton pants and pauses, totally shocked that the tailor managed to make such nice clothes out of such cheap material. Holding the old pattern, Lion wonders if he should just go for it and try stitching the pieces of fabric together right then and there. But realizing he barely knows the basics, he figures it is much smarter to start by practicing hand sewing rather than jumping straight onto the crazy modern machines. Then a light bulb goes off. He reaches into his bag and pulls out the artisan repair kit he scored as a bonus from the magic shop earlier. Figuring this is the perfect time to test out the magic item, Lion sits down at the table and starts messing with the sewing supplies. To his absolute shock, the magic needle suddenly glows super bright and actually shifts its shape the second he touches it. The blonde teen is amazed to see the tool morph to look perfectly brand new, and even better, the needle literally threads itself automatically. Loving how handy these magic tools are, he sinks into the chair and decides to finally try his hand at his very first stitches. The young heir gets completely in the zone, sitting by the large window, while the soft evening light fills the cozy little workshop. Lion cracks a tiny smile, totally focused on his hands. He actually surprises himself, realizing that sewing is incredibly fun and super relaxing. He honestly thought the delicate work would just annoy him, but instead, he feels totally at peace. He even notices his stitching getting faster and a lot straighter. Lion suddenly spots faint magic guidelines glowing right on the fabric to help him out. He wonders if that is just another cool perk of his magic kit. After finishing 80% of the pants repair, a system screen pops up. It alerts him that the cheap fabric actually turned into a decent item, all thanks to his hard work. Suddenly, the blonde hears someone clapping and spins around, totally startled. He sees Andrew and Lixil walking back in after finishing his little brother's fitting. Lixil smiles, saying he really did not want to break his brother's deep focus. Meanwhile, the tailor rushes over to the table, completely blown away by how fast Lion worked. Andrew carefully inspects the stitches the young man made. He gasps in surprise, shouting that even though the lines are slightly crooked, The final result is absolutely flawless. The tailor starts literally running and jumping around the room, losing his mind with pure joy. He yells out that the young master's hand stitching just reminded him of something incredibly important. Waving his hands wildly, he explains that hand sewing is the true core of high fashion, something he had totally forgotten to practice himself. Andrea immediately starts looking over the pattern, bursting with genius design ideas. Lion just chuckles quietly, joking that the tailor is completely in his own world now. Lixil then chimes in, suggesting they should probably head back to the mansion for now. The older brother instantly agrees, suddenly remembering they have a very important event today. The younger sibling reminds him that they have a fancy formal dinner planned with the head of the family back at the main estate tonight. Meanwhile, over in the clan's main office, the butler informs Patriarch Patrick that the young masters have just arrived and that they should probably head down to the dining hall together. Still glued to the giant stack of paperwork on his desk, the older patriarch nods at the butler's reminder and decides to finally wrap up his work. He walks calmly beside his loyal servant, making his way down the long, luxurious hallways lit up by massive crystal chandeliers. The butler softly mentions how rare it is for the three of them to actually sit down and eat together. Patrick replies that moments like this are exactly what a family needs. The old man admits he isn't working himself to the bone just for fun, but because it's the absolute only way to keep his precious grandsons safe. He secretly groans about the insane workload the royal family dumps on him even though 50 years have passed since the war ended. Patrick sighs, wishing he could just hang out with his boys. But his butler simply smiles, reminding him that 8th Circle mages have incredibly long lifespans. As the doors swing open, the grandfather steps into the dining room with his head held high. There was no way he would ever miss a dinner with his heirs. Stepping into the brightly lit hall, the patriarch is announced. A sudden warmth fills his chest the second he sees the eager faces of his two grandsons. Watching Lion and Lixil waiting at the table, Patrick realizes he just wants a peaceful life with the precious treasures his late daughter left behind. Catching his grandson's bright smile, Patrick vows to himself that he can never let anyone find out about the boy's true hidden potential. Lion welcomes his grandpa warmly, but as he stares at the massive mountain of food, he starts to wonder if they went a little overboard tonight. Lixil just smiles, explaining he personally asked the chef to go all out, since it has been ages since all three of them sat down together. Lion nods, flashing back to the days when he would either skip eating or choke down bland hospital food while their grandfather was always out working. The blonde teen suddenly realizes that with both of them gone, Lixil probably spent most of his days eating all by himself at this gigantic table. He quietly stares at his younger brother, feeling a heavy ache in his chest, as he imagines just how lonely it must have been for the kid all this time. When Lixil happily mentions they should do this more often, it really tugs at Lion's heartstrings. He swears to break this sad cycle. He thinks about how crushing it must have been for his little brother to shoulder the isolation and family pressure completely by himself. Right then and there, he decides to make their grandfather clear his schedule so they can spend way more time together as a real family, promising himself that Lixil will never eat another meal alone. Lion smiles warmly, soaking in this rare happy moment with him. Patrick finally takes his seat at the head of the table as the butler steps in, pouring a glass of fine, rich wine to start the night. The old man gives the green light to dig in, and the boys politely nod, grabbing their forks to dive into the massive feast in front of them. A heavy silence drops over the fancy room. Everyone just focuses on cutting into their perfectly cooked steaks. Patrick finally speaks up, asking Lixil for a status update on his duties. The boy gives a stiff formal reply that everything is handled. Just like that, the vibe turns dead silent and tense again. It feels way too awkward for a cozy family dinner. Lion feels totally weirded out by the quiet. He figures his grandpa could at least ask how he is feeling or what kind of present he would want for the upcoming event. Seeing that this cold, stiff vibe was exactly what his little brother didn't want, the blonde teen steps up. He decides to break the ice and start a real conversation with his grandpa. Out of nowhere, he looks right at Patrick and asks if he ever crafted any special fabric for their late mother. Both Lixil and Patrick freeze in shock. The old man takes a quick sip of wine, desperately hiding his nerves. He coldly fires back that he has absolutely no idea what Lion is talking about. But Lion catches that brief flash of panic. Seeing his grandpa squirm proves that bringing up their mother is still a very raw open wound. Keeping his cool, Lion simply explains that he met a tailor earlier today, and while looking around he stumbled upon a super rare piece of fabric hidden away in the family's vault.